Hello?
Hello, Jughead. This is Archie. Come over right away. It's a matter of life or death.
Oh, relax, Archie.
Attention, all true believers. Marvel Comics is on the air.
A friend of the unfortunate, enemy of criminals. In reality, Dan Garrett, a rookie patrolman, loved by everyone but suspected by none of being the Blue Beetle.
Boys and girls, your attention, please. Presenting a new exciting radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing and incredible personality. Faster than an airplane, more powerful than a locomotive, impervious to bullets.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Hey, it's Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and I am joined, as usual, by
Dr. Frankenstein. Oh, wait.
Yes.
Big B McFly, the comic guy.
Thanks for joining us at our new time. Just kidding. Just for this week, we're experiencing some in-life difficulties, but the good news is we didn't cancel. That was my goal, is not cancel the show. Thanks everybody for being flexible. For those that are, hey, it's the East Coast, and you're like, I can catch the beginning of the show, I can't watch all of it. I didn't get the announcement about the time change, all that stuff. If you're watching on the rewind, I apologize for any of that. There was I don't want to say a medical emergency, but there was something that came up where my wife needed to go to a doctor's appointment. The only time she could get in was an hour before the show was supposed to start, and that's just not enough time for me to have gotten back there in time. So we're about an hour late. Do appreciate everybody who did show up. Thanks to Big B. Thanks to everybody at the EXP. By the way, we're streaming on both those channels. I should mention that real fast. The links are in the description below if you want to go sub up those awesome people. We're going to say hi to all the awesome people that said hello in chat. Some of them may or may not be here still, but we're going to do that real fast. We got Richard Westfall in his new gold medal position.
Ooh, keeping it locked down.
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row. GTK Comic coming in for silver medal. It is a close one, but you won, Richard. You won. This guy, Bronze Age Nerd, was talking about being late. What a loser. And then we got John's Comics with Kids came in to say hello. Yeah, it is you know what, John, you were right. It is a massive topic for people. I do appreciate the kind words here. We are going. Hopefully, you get a chance to kind of come back and watch later if you kind of moved on to other things. Son of Crom coming in. What's up, Son of Crom? And we got Comic Tropes in the chat. We always love that. Thanks, Comic Tropes. Appreciate it. Preston just stopped by to say hello and leave a like. Hopefully he'll watch on the rewind. I know he usually does. We appreciate that, Preston. Thank you. Please do one opening dance scene. Okay, here you go. There you go. You didn't say it had to be a good one. Got Renegade Rants Comics in the chat. What's up, Renegade? John Stout. What's up, John? Hey, John, if you're still watching, I'll get down to the live chat that's really, truly live here in a second. Let me know if you're going to make it to Frankenstein. Because if you are, I want to make sure I bring your box of goodies that you have from Heroes for Heroes. Otherwise, I'll ship it off to you. Chaos Prime in the house. Folks, go sub up Chaos Prime.
He broke 100, he said.
Oh, nice. He finally broke 100. Well, let's get him to 200 now.
Yeah, there we go. Next stop, 200.
Yeah. Actual Dracula is in the house. What's up, Actual Dracula? We're going to be talking about Dracula here a little bit later for sure. And then Hydra Asylum, aka Jay, one of our lovely producers in the chat. We appreciate that. Thanks for watching. And Psycho Phil is still here. Awesome. And yeah, looks like Drac is still around too. That's awesome. So we got big news, big announcements. But before we get to all that, I want to take a couple seconds to shout out some people. We want to make sure we recognize viewers you guys ever have a birthday coming up, or you know somebody in the community who has a birthday coming up, hit us up, because somebody did that earlier today who submitted a community art post. Shout out to Headless Hammerhead out there. Giovanni sent that in, and we appreciate that. We'll show his community art here a little bit later. But he also pointed out something which is really cool, which is that Take the Time Collectibles, who's a really cool member in the community. I believe he works at a comic book shop as well in Florida. Anyways, he's a really cool guy. He helps out with Heroes for Heroes. He helps out with a lot of causes. His birthday is tomorrow. So happy birthday, Take the Time Collectibles, if you're watching the rewind. Yeah. So I think that's really cool. We'll definitely make sure to shout out birthdays for people in the community. If you guys let us know about it, I think it's a fun thing to do. Why not? And then the other thing I wanted to mention too, we talked about this before last week, but it caught us off guard a little bit. And I'll actually, since I made a post about it and I have that up on my screen, I'll just put this up here to talk about it real fast. Comic Tropes, who, regular friend of the channel, somebody we hang out with when we go to conventions around here as much as we can. Really great person that we want to support. He's got a comic book coming out, Radiant Black 32, which is a great series. A lot of people like anyway. He's doing the backup story in that issue. He said it's kind of a shorter backup story, but hey, we really want to see people go and order this comic book. I went and ordered. I'm ordering at least 5 copies of it through a friend of mine that still can do orders. There's a really cool 1 in 25 jock cover, and I'm thinking about it, but that's a lot of copies. But I thought it might be kind of cool to give some away and stuff. That's why I ordered 5. I'd like to get him to sign one or something like that, of course, and maybe I get him to do a few. We can kind of give him away or something. If he's
that would be cool for sure.
So, gonna get at least a few of those, but don't count on being one of the lucky ones that wins it. Go and order your copy today of Radiant Black 32. Right. Support Chris. So
we got some new people in the chat too.
Yeah. Let's see. We got Awesome Sauce popping in here. What's up? Happy Tuesday morning, I guess. Hope everything is now okay. I won't talk about it too long, but just the sad reality is my family's been on a roller coaster with various medical things for a while now. Some of that's kind of expected. Our daughters in kindergarten, and kindergartners pick up all kinds of, little bugs here and there. And that's kind of been some of it. Some of it's been more, somewhat more serious stuff. It's unfortunately, excuse me. It's just unfortunately been kind of a cycle. So it hasn't really stopped for any of us.
Right.
And we've had different stuff too. So it hasn't just been the same thing over and over, but that's basically what's going on.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Got Norin Rad, aka Rad Art and Comics, in the chat. What's up? What's up, Norin? Hey, 6.5 months to your birthday. Well, happy kind of half birthday almost.
Halfway there. On Joey.
Yeah, absolutely appreciate the kind words there, Hydrosylum. Another channel you should all go sub up, by the way. Plenty of channels you guys can do that for. I try to point it out whenever it comes up.
For sure.
Yeah. The next thing I wanted to talk about, we're going to kind of, I know it's late for a lot of people. We'll try to kind of move it along relatively quickly. At least I'm going to try to. I want to talk about the community art competition update.
Yes, sir.
The doozy of an update. So as a lot of you have been following along, we're down to actual Dracula versus Roscoe here in the final. And this was the post, over 100 likes on that, a lot of comments. A few people abstained from voting because it was a little too close for them, and I totally appreciate and understand that. These are a couple people that are, I think it's safe to say, they're friends in the community. They have a lot of similar friends, where it's going to be a little tough to vote for one or the other. But before I announce the winner there, I'm actually gonna just take a second, not too long, but just a second, to kind of highlight the other people who were in this. So we're just going to kind of briefly show the other entries here. We had Ben Taz here with his excellent entry. We had Elliot Wright, Colossus Collector, aka Ryan, in there. Philtastic, Comics and Art, definitely go give him a follow as well. And Norin Rad, who's in the chat right now, delivering some awesome pieces. Norin went ahead a couple of rounds here. Roscoe Comics Limited, who's another friend of the channel. You'll definitely, he might not still be up or whatever, but he might pop in later. Another
he works graveyard.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he might be around if he's able. And then There were some unrelated posts for just my normal shenanigans, and then we had Dracula in again as he won the last round up against Eddie Rodriguez with that awesome death piece. And then we had CJ Design, who had a buy in the first round as well, coming in with that great Storm. And then Scott Hasselwood, who I have a couple of his Swamp Thing pieces. That was great art.
Love that Swamp Thing.
Roy Thomas was the one to beat.
Great.
And then yeah, Roy Thomas right here. Roscoe stomped Roy Thomas into the ground, which he should. And then the rest of those are kind of repeats of ones we've already seen. So I'll go back to our the winning post and show you between our two finalists who won. So I added up, I had to wait outside for my wife's appointment. So I was kind of adding up the votes. And I just want to make sure, just in case any like final votes came through, I really don't think they did, but I'll just double check. Yeah, so I went through and added through everything. I won't count them up for everybody here. There might be like one extra one for Drac there. It looks like maybe that I missed or something, but I hearted all the ones. It's pretty safe to say that actual Dracula was our winner. At the last count I had 30 votes for Dracula, and
there was a vote for actual Roscula.
I did not count that one because they were clearly going for both here. Yeah, if you go through there, you'll see a few people that were like, hey, I can't do this. They're my friends, that kind of thing. Somebody voted for Roy Thomas. I think that was Richard. Yeah, here we go. Both are incredible, but Roy Thomas has my vote. But pretty safe to say, based on the math there, that our winner for the 2024 Comic Community Art Competition, which it's not just a competition. I have to point that out. We really just want to share your art. I think that's the most important thing here. But we do, at the end of the year, we wanted to kind of reward everybody who was part of this by putting them in the competition. So anybody who submitted, you automatically got in the competition. We chose the final piece that was going to go up in the competition with you guys live in the chat, you guys and gals out there. And these were the ones we decided on. Roscoe put up a great fight. He got to the finals. I love that Venomized Donald Duck. It was just a wonderful piece from him. It meant a lot to me. Roscoe was our number one submitter, I think. Maybe Roscoe or maybe Comics Limited might have came in there pretty close.
Roscoe had a lot.
Yeah. So hey, maybe if we chose a different piece, he might have been the winner. But at the end of the day, actual Dracula takes home the actual trophy for this one as well. So congratulations, actual Dracula. Adrian, you're an amazing and talented artist, just like everybody who submitted here. We really love all of your art. And at the end of the day, the likes out there went in favor of Dracula, who just did this awesome Ghost Rider piece. It deserves all the love because he did such an amazing job on it. I love the burned edge look to it. I mean, that's just like chef's kiss right there, right? So there's Dracula in the chat. Thanks for including me, guys, and thanks to everyone who voted. Yeah, and thanks to everyone who submitted their art. We absolutely appreciate and love it.
Yeah, like you were saying, it's not about a competition. It's about just encouraging people to create and get out there and flex those creative muscles. So I'm just really happy that people are doing that.
And here's Awesome Sauce saying he wishes he could buy a print of the Donald Duck, which
he probably could if you contact Roscoe.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And not something that we had much to do with or anything like that, but we can talk to the artists involved at least. I know there's quite a few people that really liked several pieces that were involved in this competition.
Yeah,
and felt really
please reach out to the artists on Instagram, and I'm sure they would not be opposed to getting a little cash in their pocket.
100%, right? Like, I mean, why not? Just to have more love for their art out there, and that was the whole goal of this, right? Like more love for people's art and more encouragement for people creating and sharing art. So with that in mind, Dracula is our winner. I know we are going to be sending a prize package along to Drac. And I know Big B had a little more time than I did today, so he was able to kind of pull some of those prizes a little bit earlier. I believe he may have reached out to our winner too.
A few things for him.
So I'm gonna make Big B the large screen here while I take care of a couple things in the background, and Big B's gonna show off some stuff.
So first of all, I'm gonna give him a piece of original Big B art. And Drac likes that horror stuff, so we got a zombie piece I did a while ago. So I figured I'd send that along to him.
Nice. That's beautiful.
And then, it's actual Dracula, so I got to send him a Dracula comic, right?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna be digging up a Tomb of Dracula comic as well, or something vampire related at the very least.
And then he likes that horror stuff, so Werewolf by Night. I had a little chat with him on the phone earlier just to make sure I was getting him some stuff he might like.
That's awesome.
Werewolf by Night.
Some good books.
A little more modern, Man Thing, #1.
Who's the artist on that one, by the way? I didn't ask earlier.
I am not Jam. No, it says Jam D. Mateus and Liam Sharp. So
okay,
not sure if that is the actual cover artist though.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
It's a cool cover. Got that Nexus of Realities thing going on there, and then last but not least, a cool Alex Ross Justice hardcover.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So is that like an art book, or is that the actual series?
It's a series, and actually, it's
Nice.
kind of cool. You find out in this book, spoiler alert, you find out that Aquaman has a healing factor.
Yeah. No, Justice is a great series.
Yeah.
I think it gets overlooked a little bit because of Kingdom Come, but
Yeah.
It's a fantastic read and a brilliant art too, of course.
Yeah. So be sending those things along. We'll get together with Bronze, and maybe we'll package everything up in one big bundle of goodness. And of course, we'll get you a Big B McFly sticker too. You got to can't forget that. So I'll stick that in the art right now so I don't forget.
I'm actually trying to remember if I actually have any Bronze Age nerd stickers left. I got to order some. No joking. And then I'm actually saving off some artwork here real fast because I'm now finally at my computer where I could do this.
Well, make me big again real quick because
we'll do.
I got somebody else who won a package of stuff from me the other night.
Ooh, was somebody who like is one of your like key collecting friends, maybe?
Yeah, one of my key friends in life. So we did our my membership drive the other night, giveaway for members, and this month's winner was Bronze Age Nerd. We rolled the the wheel of names, and Bronze won. So he's going to get a piece of original artwork.
Oh, sweet!
I did this one on Roscoe's channel. We were supposed to do a postcard for a place in a place you might visit in Comics Universe. So Arcade welcomes you to Murder World.
Dude, I didn't know about that. That's awesome. I've seen you show that art before, and it's really cool. But I didn't know you were doing that too.
Yeah, so that was what that was for. And then also part of that was Thundercats #1 newsstand.
Yeah, I don't have a copy of that, so I'm excited about that one a lot.
A nice high grade copy of Spawn #9, first appearance
Love
of
Angela.
Really
Which, by the way, with all the stuff going on, kind of makes you wonder if Todd wasn't kind of right about the whole Angela thing.
Right. It's a Dallas Times Herald promo comic from the early '80s. Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk meet the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, and hey, we got the leader down here. It's the bad guy. Spoiler.
That's the kind of like fun novelty book that I kind of love.
Yeah, no, and that is actually a fairly valuable book. These oddball promo books which are kind of hard to come by. So yeah, it's a really nice high grade copy of that. So, and then what we got? Proctor Valley Road 1 through 5. So number
Nice.
1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. So packaging those, and Bronze said he already has those, I think. So we might be putting those towards Heroes for Heroes.
Yeah, by the way, folks, anybody who wins Big B's giveaways every month, if there's books that you're like, hey, I don't need it, or it's not something that I'm into or whatever, he has the option to roll it forward to Heroes for Heroes, which is really cool.
Yeah, that is true for sure.
Yeah.
And then Travis helped me pick out a bunch of the books for the giveaway. He's like, let's do a really cool like 90s crossover thing. So we did Hulk Pit, which is by Peter David and Dale Keown, which is, if you know, Dale Keown got to start doing Hulk, and then he went over and did his creator-owned Pit. So it's kind of a cool.
It's cool for that reason alone.
Yeah. So Hulk Pit, Superman, Madman, Hullabaloo, Mike Allred.
Yeah, Mike Allred. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Spider-Man and Gen 13.
Is that John Romita Jr.?
This is Saviak. Is what it says
Okay.
on there. Yeah, I was thinking it looked like Dotson almost when I was first.
Oh
looking.
yeah, now that I see it a little bit closer, I can see some dots
Yeah.
in there too. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of that going on, but that's interesting.
Cool. And then a graphic novel, Daredevil Volume 1 by David Mack and Joe Quesada.
I'm definitely looking forward to having that.
Yeah, very cool book there. And then a really cool hardcover, Captain America Reborn by Ed Brubaker, Brian Hitch. So
Yeah,
cool hardcover.
that's gonna be cool too. Timely too.
Yeah, so I do a membership giveaway every month. If you guys want to sign up for memberships, it's cool. Every month on the 15th or thereabouts, we do a giveaway. So
very cool. Well, thank you for the prizes, and I just do it to support you. Didn't expect to win, so that's really cool.
Well, there's, right now I lost one, so we're sitting like there's just like 6 people on the wheel of names, or 7 people, 6 or 7 people on the wheel of names. So the odds are pretty good to win.
Yeah. Well, and
I always
like
make sure you get some really good books.
And in addition to that, too, you also get there's a different level. So there was a different prize package with a whole bunch of comic books, like a really good stack, actually. Did another person one, too, which that was Dr. Plagueis won that one, right?
Yeah. So there's 2 levels. There's the Key Collector, which is the $9.99 level, and then there's the Dollar Bin Diver, which is $4.99 level. And if you're at the $9.99, you get you're eligible for all the ones before, and then the Dollar Bin Diver gets the smaller one. So, but
nice.
Yeah. It's a cool thing we're doing. I'm having fun with it.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get caught up with chat here. I know I'm pretty far behind, but Norin says that him, Naman, and K-pop all have birthdays in March, so that's coming right around the corner.
Make sure you let us know like the week of, so we can shout them out.
I think K-pop knows like everybody's birthday. I like had a conversation with her about that once.
There you go. You got
She's a good resource.
Yeah,
it was a tough decision for sure. Hydra Asylum couldn't vote. Yeah, a lot of Roy Thomas. Roy Thomas was screwed. Roy Thomas was the one to beat, though. Good point. 2 guys walk into a bar, the third one ducked.
I love it.
And then we got that print talk. A lot of congratulations for Drac. That's awesome. Richard points out, if possible, these artists should donate to Heroes for Heroes. I mean, that's a great suggestion. People that like their art, like yourself, Richard, or anybody out there, hit them up if you think that they should be involved in Heroes for Heroes. I know some did. There was a community art stream that Bigby actually led the charge on over on John's Comics with Kids channel, but Bigby was largely responsible for organizing it.
Drac was on there, and
so exactly.
And Norman was on there as well, and myself,
Ben Taz,
Ben Taz.
Actually, the piece we showed was from Heroes for Heroes for Ben.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who else was on there. Can't remember that guy's name. I'm sorry. Sorry to the people who I can't remember.
Scott Hasselwood had donated his pieces too.
Yeah, Scott donated pieces to the actual auction, right?
Yeah.
Or was that to the?
No, he donated. They were sold on the art stream.
Oh, on the art stream. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And yourself. And Comics Limited. So Comics Limited. Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah.
Definitely an option for people. I love that comment though. Love seeing it.
Yeah.
I don't know, $1,000, John. Are you offering to buy one of the pieces? I'm not sure.
He wants to buy that Ghost Rider piece.
It's possible. I mean, it's pretty sick art. I just didn't know how to interpret that, so let me know, John. Nice. Richard won in the Philtastic. That's cool.
Yeah.
So that's how Aquaman grew his hand back.
I think so, actually.
Yeah, I think it is related to that. Awesome Sauce says Aquaman, the dude who talks to fish and has a wife that takes a crap in everyone's bed.
Well, there's that.
God, she looked good in that first movie, though.
Right?
Not gonna lie.
Oh, John would say that was going to be Adrian's prize.
Oh, well, you know what? If we get more channel members, maybe we could pull our resources. Let me put it this way: I definitely wouldn't be able to pay myself out $1,000 for all this stuff that happens here. But I love it. Yeah, Madam was on too. That's right. She had to bail, but she did do a piece that was part of that as well.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Madam was on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, a lot of artists were definitely involved with it, but I'm talking about the people that we featured in the community art competition. But yeah. I do want to take a second, by the way, before we move on to our next topic, which is talking about the new community art that we got this week. And there's some really great stuff you're going to want to check out. I do want to talk about how there's going to be a very special Minute to Skim It tomorrow on the EXP. Like I mentioned earlier, we're streaming actually on several channels right now. We're streaming on Big B McFly's channel. We're streaming on the Bronze Age Nerd channel. We're also streaming on all the EXP channels, which is not just their YouTube, but also over there, like on their Twitch, for example, or over on Facebook, on Instagram. And mostly people watch on YouTube, though. And that's the link that's in the description below if you want to go check them out. Minute to Skim It is an awesome show where you get to get a little capsule review of the comic books that are coming out from a lot of the publishers coming out on New Comic Book Day. So you can kind of get a chance to go see, hey, should I pick this up? Is it worth it? It's actually going to be a little bit different. It's a pre-recorded episode, so it's going to be a little bit unique. But maybe you go check it out. Maybe they did something a little bit different over there tomorrow. And that'll be at 7 Eastern, 6 Central, 5 Pacific tomorrow on the EXP. So definitely go check them out.
For sure.
There you go. Nice plug for Big B's channel.
Oh, thank you.
So that's in the live chat if you want to go follow that. So I'm going to bring up our community artwork for this week. We got some killer pieces in here.
Fabulous pieces this week.
Yeah, just got to share it.
Not that they're not fabulous every week, but
no, but I feel like it's almost like, I think it's just because the sheer number of submissions has kind of gone up on a week-to-week basis, because we shared this many art pieces, but it was usually from like 2 or 3 people. And now we have a unique, 8 or 9 or whatever from different people each week, which is really cool.
Right.
Speaking of which, that's Norin, right? That's who that's from. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure I had the right name there. And I'm gonna, because it's kind of that picture. I'm gonna zoom in on the art a little bit here.
I was trying to get the name in there with the art, so you
no, and I totally. I just want to make sure I was like Aaron, but I know there's a lot of Aarons, so I just wanted to make sure I had the right one. Killer Carnage piece, pun intended there.
Sketch cover.
Sweet. Yeah, kind of zoom in a little bit more on that so you can see some more of the details since we're already zoomed in a little bit.
That is awesome. That looks super textured.
Oh, sorry. Spoilers.
Spoiler alert. That looks like textured. I love it. Yeah,
I know the goo on Carnage. I like that when it has like even highlighting on it.
The sinew of the muscles and stuff underneath. I love that.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, the line work there is good.
Yeah.
But I'm always a fan. Like some artists draw that in as like completely black when they do the black part of the symbiote. Right. I like it when there's that little bit of like light highlighting on it though. That's really cool. It's a lot more work, but it shows off the gooiness.
Super cool.
Very good job there, Norton. I already kind of teased this, but our reigning champion now from 2024 did this awesome, kind of Chamber of Chills kind of homage here, Secret of the Ooze.
And he messaged me about that. He said that was for a Secret of the Ooze special or something that he had done.
Okay.
For that. So
I don't know. Is that supposed to be? Okay, that is supposed to be Vanilla Ice. Yeah. Okay.
Iceman cometh, it says.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I was trying. Wait a minute, is that Vanilla Ice? But yeah, it totally is. I barely had time to look at the
Turtles song.
Yeah. Absolutely. Ninja, go Ninja, go Ninja, go. Right.
Right.
No, that's cool.
Plus the Turtles in Time Machine.
Yeah, exactly. Got everything going on there. Very cool. We got Shredder, Toka, Razar. That's awesome.
That's sweet.
Wow, that's going to be a contender for 2025 right there.
Yeah, I love it. It's very cool.
CJ Design, like playing to his audience, knows you got to have a couple of Rogue fans here on the panel. At least I know you're a Rogue fan too, right?
Yeah. That's very nice.
But that's
good job, buddy.
I feel like and I don't know if some of these are maybe older or not. I'm not really 100% sure with him, but I feel like CJ Design's submissions are getting like I can see a difference in detail and stuff that's coming through him. Really cool. And I believe he does sketch cover commissions as well. If you guys are interested in him, I think you can reach out to him for that.
Yeah.
Very nice, CJ. Got Comics Limited coming in hot. This is actually a commission he did for somebody, right? Was it for Dracula?
That's for Richard.
For Richard. Okay, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
This is the Avengers locker room.
Very neat. Very I could totally see that being a thing.
Right.
Like
Black Widow, Cap, Thor,
yeah,
Scarlet Witch, Iron Man. That's so cool.
I could see a whole line of like variant covers there or something.
And Trav does commissions as well. So Comics Limited.
Yep. Nice job, Travis. We got Dominique Gomez. This is a really cool Iron Man.
Yeah, and he is a young artist. I got to meet him through Nerdy Meg's Musings.
Okay.
His podcast, and this fellow was doing a Kickstarter for his book, and he does commissions as well. He's on there. I think he's Dom. Well, if you look up Dominic Gomez, you'll find him on Instagram. But
gotcha.
Yeah,
that's a really cool Iron Man. Got kind of a manga kind of slant on it, maybe a little bit too, but yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
Awesome sauce. So the person that did the Secret of the Ooze, that's actual Dracula, and he definitely is on Instagram. If you search for actual Dracula, I don't know if it's actually just at actual Dracula, but it definitely comes out.
It is actually, yeah.
His name's Adrian on there too, which he has on his account. And so just to verify, you should be able to see that too, or read that, I should say. But yeah,
I would hit these people up if there's anybody on here that you want to get a print from. Hit them up. I'm sure they could do something for you.
Yeah, and I know, like, I don't know if he's like open for commissions, but I know he has done commissions in the past. So I'm prints might be something he can do too.
Larry J's got Drac in the.
There you go.
So there we go.
So this is Elliot Wright, who you saw his piece. So he was part of last year's competition as well. He's been a regular submitter. Awesome, Dr. Doom. Very cool.
That is sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, I love all the kind of.
He is space on it. LXST boy, like Lost Boy, is him on Instagram.
Yeah, very cool. Is that? I don't remember like blank covers ever looking like that with that trade dress, like the approved by the Fantastic Four code and like the round. That's interesting. Cool.
Yeah, that's Elliot. There you go.
So this is from Headless Hammerhead, who I mentioned earlier, doing an X-23. He did a few, like he did a Jubilee we showed last week. I think he's kind of doing the swimsuit special Jim Lee style kind of thing.
Yeah,
X-Men. That's pretty cool.
That's very nice.
Yeah,
nice shading.
Yeah. And he I don't know if he's open for commissions right now, but he does do portraits. He specializes in pet portraits.
I like it's very subtle. His shading is really subtle, but I like it.
And then we got Nerdy Musings. We were just talking about him.
Yeah.
Doing again another timely one. I don't know if he did it because of the show being on right now, but Battle Beast.
I had it. He did it before that episode. But
nice.
Yeah.
Not to spoil anything, but Battle Beast was kind of in a recent episode of Invincible. I won't say more than that if you haven't read the comic or seen the show yet.
He has his own book coming out, doesn't he? I believe he has. There's a Battle Beast.
I didn't know about that. That's cool.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite characters from that show, or from the series, I should say.
Yeah.
But yeah. Very fun.
Yeah,
is Michael Dorn doing the voice of him? The guy that played Worf?
I don't know. I could see that.
Yeah. I might be wrong about that, but I was like, I meant to look that up when I was watching the episode, but I just got too distracted by how good it was.
James did a really good job on that, though. I think it came out really good.
It's awesome.
His ink work is really nice. Hey, who could have done that?
We got a little Roscoe coming in here with a little Freddy Taz dash up. I wanted to say Taz up, but it doesn't really work. Awesome, man. I always love Roscoe's stuff too. One of pretty much all of our regular submitters do a great job. Not that our non-regular submitters don't do a great job.
And Jay says it is Michael Dorn.
Hey, there we go. I was right about that. There's some great voices in that cast.
Yeah.
It's a good job, Roscoe, as usual. And then we got Side Quest Comics. I'll zoom in on the art, but this is Side Quest Comics.
Yeah.
Is that an original character? Or?
I think that's an original character of his own.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could almost see this being like a Demon Souls video game character or something like that too. But just not something familiar with if it is.
Yeah.
Very cool either way. Very cool. Wanted to kind of zoom in on this. I couldn't tell if those were there's like horns or wings or something on the helmet. That's pretty neat.
Horned helm there. Yeah.
Very cool. Hey, an awesome batch of submissions again this week, everybody.
For sure.
Just to remind you, if you want to be part of like the 2025, art competition, or really just the sharing of community artwork, all you have to do is submit that to myself or Big B. You can do that through Instagram. Is really easy. If you're on Instagram, most artists usually are. If you want to just hit me up at my email, it's thebronzeagenerd@gmail.com. You can definitely do that as well too, of course. I'm on Discord, Twitter, Facebook, Blue Sky, all those places. You can hit me up there too. You can hit Baby up on at least most of those places. So if you can find either of us on social media, you should be able to hit us up. You can also just tag us on Instagram or something like that, and we'll hopefully find it. But you might want to DM it to us as well, just to be sure.
Yeah, we'll do our best to get you on here.
Yeah. And anybody who submits artwork, as long as we end up showing you on the show, the only reason we might not is if it's not appropriate to show on the air, which we've had that happen a couple times, in which cases I tend to show it off on my Discord server to at least get people exposed to it. But as long as your artwork gets featured one time throughout the year, we'll put you into the competition at the end of the year. So if we have 100 people at the end of the year, that'd be awesome. We'll start the voting nice and early and get everybody kind of up on the bracket. It'll be really fun. So love to see it.
And again, it's not about the competition or anything. It's just about getting people to create, getting exposure for you as an artist, getting feedback for you and exposure from people. So
yeah. The competition just came around from us being like, man, people are sitting in all this awesome artwork. We should like do something for them. Just give something back.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Awesome Sauce. I mean, sexy is still fine. Right. If you can do sexy and not have it be explicit, that's the only difference. Yeah, and it is Michael Dorn. That's awesome. Thanks for the clarification on that. I was like, I swear it is, but now I'm gonna regret saying that because I'm probably wrong. We should probably tackle some news topics real fast before we move into our main topic of the night. By the way, I didn't mention that earlier. I usually do. Our main topic tonight, if you know from the thumbnail or from the title, it's about what significant others think about your collecting. And I think that'll be really interesting to talk about. I got some feedback from some people. We can talk to people about it in the chat too. So kind of cue that up.
Yeah.
And let us know. And we'd love to hear about your stories. Get it kind of typed out and maybe copy paste, or if you put it in the chat, I'll star it and we can kind of bring it back up later. Definitely want to hear your stories. Would you be allowed to submit something on behalf of a friend as a surprise for amazing art that he's done?
As long as you have his permission.
Yeah, so it wouldn't really be a surprise. That's what I was just thinking about. We need their permission to share it. At least that's how I feel like it should be done. Mm-hmm. But if you want to say that you're doing it for them, like, hey, I'm just gonna do this for you because it could be fun, that would be awesome. As long as they're cool with it, I'm cool with it too.
Yeah, for sure. I just don't want to be like, oh, hey, we showed your artwork. I didn't want that shown, or
yeah. I mean, I think the chances that are pretty low, but it's still something I think we're going to be careful about, just because we wouldn't want anybody feeling like sour grapes about it or anything like that.
Right.
But let's kind of talk about some news. Some of this is going to be relatively quick. Some of it's going to be a little bit more of a deep dive. From Bleeding Cool, I just thought, there's probably a lot of news sources talking about this. I just happened to see it on Bleeding Cool. I know that I'm a huge Emma Frost fan. I can just go ahead and say I'm pretty confident. I bet Big B is as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite X-villains, and then she's now obviously become an X-Men herself. But she's getting her own series again, which she's had one before. But it's Emma Frost, the White Queen, which is gonna be launching in June, with some pretty cool covers we can kind of check out here. Although off the top of my head, I know there's a Greg Land, Joelle Jones, Joshua Swaby, Mike Henderson, and Ricky Yagawa cover selection there.
Some Emma Frosts from before, because those are exceptional X-Men.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, good point. Exceptional X-Men. Okay. Yeah, probably just showing off.
Maybe they're not giving them away yet.
Yeah, there's some solicitations going to be coming out there for June. I don't think there's anything else in this article that really kind of goes into the details of the series, but it does. It should be pretty neat. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Ooh, so Richard, this is interesting. This is very interesting. By the way, hello to Comic Tropes. Comic Tropes, we were talking about you earlier. We plugged your upcoming Radiant Black again earlier. We kind of showed off that post I made the other day. And
said everybody buy 100 copies.
Yeah. Well, and I told people, since you're in the chat, I'll mention this again. I'm ordering several copies. I was kind of seeing if maybe I might be able to get you to sign them at some point, and we could do some giveaways on the show or something like that when they come in. if you're so willing. I think it'd be fun, but you might say no, and that's fine too. But
Absolutely.
I told everybody
we
they
did
should
do a
probably
little
go
dance
order.
at the beginning for you too. So
Yeah.
you'll have to watch that
I
again.
mean, we really, really, really went all out for comic tropes. If I do say so myself. So Richard disliked White Queen's relationship with Cyclops, and this is tough for me because I'm, people know I'm a big Cyclops fan. I actually kind of enjoyed it. I hated it at first. When at first I was like felt betrayed or on Jean's behalf at first, because I mean it comes out of the gate swinging, where she's
Right.
like dressed up as Jean in like the psychic plane, and it's pretty gnarly, but I enjoyed it as it kind of went along, because I think it explored a different part of Cyclops's character. It kind of helped cement this whole idea too, because for those that don't know, in the 90s, Psylocke had a huge crush on Cyclops. And obviously he's been with Jean, Madeline, some of these, higher level telepaths. And his relationship with Emma kind of cemented this idea that the telepaths just love Cyclops. Something about his mind. They've kind of tried to explain it with his powers, which I don't really enjoy as much, but his mind apparently is like very calming. It's like catnip for telepaths, basically. That's what they say. So they enjoy being in there.
He's got a sexy brain.
Yeah. Which I always thought kind of made sense in a way, because they always made a big deal about Jean and Cyclops's like psychic rapport. And obviously these things didn't really happen while Jean was properly alive. But let's be honest, she kind of dies a lot, kind of in her name, with Phoenix and all that. Oh man, you're too kind. It was Patreon level dancing too. Wow. Too hot for YouTube. We did put our clothes back on though.
I put the shirt back on. I don't know about the pants, but
I never wear pants. I don't know what you're talking about. Not on stream. Why do you think I never get up to get anything? Emma Frost is one of the sexiest X-women. She's not Katie Pride, but she's definitely second place. I can respect that. I do too. I have that there's actually, if it's the same one I'm thinking of, I want to say they were Tyler Kirkham or something like that. There's one where Cyclops is kissing Emma and like Jean's in the background, and there's one where like Wolverine is kissing Jean and Cyclops is in the background or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, those are some fun ones.
Those are David Nakayama covers?
Oh, maybe they are Nakayama.
Maybe.
Sure. They were unknown exclusives, I think. So that actually would track, because he did a lot of unknown exclusives. He probably still does. I don't really buy a lot of those anymore. But
I like the one where it's Astonishing X-Men, where she's got her hands over his eyes and the red is coming through her fingers.
Yeah. Hey, we can't have that kind of language on here. Comic Tropes. Come on, keep it clean.
Winnie the Pooh. I mean,
Donald Ducking over there. I was jealous of the kids that could do the Donald Duck impression when I was a kid.
Yeah,
I always wished I could do that. I do a lot of like, Yoda or Frank Oz style impressions, like Kermit, all that kind of stuff. But I can't do Donald Duck. I don't know. I always liked the relationship. I always thought it was fun. I can respect somebody who says they didn't like it, but
like you were saying, you felt betrayed. Maybe that just never wore off for Richard. So
yeah, no. I completely. I guess I just came around on it for. It made sense for Emma's character, and I was like, okay. And I think that's kind of the angle I approached it from, and then it kind of made sense for Cyclops's too in the end too. Let's see
Richard's
here.
He's a very loyal person. He's still wants justice for Dexstar. So,
I mean, so am I. to be fair. So you know what? This is gonna be kind of a weird one because of the weird stuff I was dealing with. I pulled this article because it looked cool. I meant to read more of it and I didn't. Hopefully, Bigby had a chance to scan it a little bit more.
I didn't. I just looked at it and I was like, "Oh, that sounds interesting."
Right, and so
I'm sure they're probably not going to really go in depth in it because it's going to be a storyline, right?
Well, so Tom Brewer was talking about a grand unified theory for Scott Summers and Jean Grey. This is from I think this was Rich, right? Yeah, Rich over at Bleeding Cool. But Tom's been talking about stuff in his Substack a bit about upcoming storylines, and it's kind of, it's been interesting to get kind of a peek into that stuff. I thought this was fun because of the Emma article and what we just talked about with Scott and Emma. I thought this was kind of yin to the yang there, so to speak. But there's apparently going to be kind of a diving into their relationship. And again, I wanted to kind of read through his most recent Substack. I didn't, but he was asked a few months ago, you mentioned your grand unifying theory for Scott and Jean. I was wondering and hoping if we will learn it in the books soon. And Tom replied, yes, you will, at least the essence of it. It's in a story that'll be solicited for June, which is kind of interesting with the timing of, we know the Emma Frost book is coming out in June as well. But it's a particular project that we haven't entirely announced yet, so I can't point you directly to it at the moment. He also recently said, but I think I'd be more likely to do a Scott and Jean project set in a here and now than to do a follow-up of sending them into the future as the Slim and Red thing, which took place in the Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix and the Further Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, where they go and kind of help raise Cable in the future, which is it's a cool storyline, by the way, if you're into any of those characters. So,
which is going to be in X-Men 97, right?
Yeah. They talked about they're going to try to cover because we see kind of the beginnings of that storyline kind of start to unfold at the end of X-Men 97 season 1.
Jeez. Oh no.
To do a Donald Duck, I cannot do one, but like that's as much as I can do, man.
I used to be able to, but I'll probably end up choking on spit. Let's try here. All I can do is like angry Donald Duck.
There's an essence of it in there. That was better than mine for sure. I'll probably mess it up now, but I mean, if you want me to do like a Kermit the Frog or something, I can kind of a little bit of that, but that's a little nasally right now. But yeah, I'm more of in that kind of wheelhouse. But yep.
Buddy, well,
you're very welcome. Nothing like dancing like monkeys for your amusement.
What can we do? Dancing monkeys here on the stage.
Quite literally at times. No, I love it. I appreciate it. Yeah, Scanny Sun, exactly. The whole thing is awesome. It's okay. To be fair, it's really convoluted to casual fans that don't know the story. It's convoluted to fans that do know the story.
Rachel, like Mother Ascani or whatever in the future.
Yeah.
There's like a whole. Yeah.
There's the other thing too with Cyclops's daughter from an alternate timeline, Ruby, I think is her name. I don't know. That's actually one I don't know much about. I need to dive into that. But he has an alternate timeline, maybe not an alternate timeline, but an alternate universe, alternate reality version of a daughter too that's out there. I cannot remember who the mother is, but I don't think it's Jean. So there's some interesting characters going on there. Oh man. Yeah, we're used to we should be, especially with like Marvel or DC continuity, especially. Who's the best field leader in Marvel? Who's the second best? I'm so biased.
Gotta be down to like close to Cap and Cyclops, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, like I guess you can make the argument. I guess you can make the argument for Mr. Fantastic. I don't think he is. I think he's actually a pretty bad field leader. He's a good. Well, I don't know if I could say he's a good family figure leader. It depends on who's writing him or how good of a father he's supposed to be at the time.
Right.
I'm gonna go Cap.
Yeah, I go Cap, but I'd say Cyclops was a close second.
I'm gonna go Cyclops. I was reading Cap when I said that because Richard's comment here, Cap and Cyclops. I'm gonna go Cyclops, but I think it's literally like a 1A, 1B or tie kind of thing. And I think that's kind of Marvel has to kind of make it that way almost. I feel like ever since like the early 90s, it's kind of where they had like the Bloodlines storyline and all that kind of AVX, all those kinds of things. They always kind of, if you look at any of the back of the trading cards, they make mention of it and they kind of bring up the other one too. Or I will say that I think Cap is probably a better strategist in terms of like a battle plan. But when you actually get into the field, there's so like, and I think a lot of it's up to Chris Claremont, although a little bit of it even go back to like Stan Lee. There's so
we got Storm in there too. People are saying Cable and Fury.
It's a good point, but with Cyclops specifically, there's way more examples when I read an X-Men storyline when they're in a fight of him actually in the moment dictating tactics to the X-Men or whoever's fighting for him, and he's really smart too about adjusting. And I think that's a really good sign of a field leader too. When it comes to Cap, I think he's better about planning the battle, inspiring people. Those are both very important. So that's why it's so close to me. Storm is super interesting. I feel like she just makes up for it with raw power and kind of inspiration. But I don't know that she does the same kind of level of like of on her feet strategizing.
My reason of giving it to Cap is they've done so many goofy things with Cyclops' character.
Yeah. That's
making him susceptible to becoming kind of evil, or it's like what Cap. You don't really see that with Cap.
That's Hail Hydra.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it's not the same level, but it's definitely something.
Then Magneto. There we go.
And then so Cable is actually one. I will give it to Rob Liefeld. When Cable was leading the X-Force, he was very much written that way. Like he was written as being a good field leader. I don't know if I ever actually saw it in his actions. But you could tell that that's what the writing was going for. I don't feel like that's happened as much with Cable because you've had so many X-Force members end up resenting him and kind of like hating like how he's willing to like sacrifice pawns basically to him is how he looks at it. Fury, man, I'd have to go back and read more like Sergeant Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos kind of stuff, because I don't really think of him as a field leader in the Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. days. He's done it for sure, but
right.
I don't know. And maybe that could just be my lack of exposure to some stuff where he's been doing that. Night Thrasher. Ooh, I'd love to get Becker, Mike Becker. Beckerman Comics.
Right.
He's a huge New Warriors fan. I'd love to get his opinion on that. I don't know. I don't know if I can say that one too. Again, just lack of exposure for me. Magneto would be second place. It's interesting. I feel like the same way about Magneto as I do about Storm is that like it's not so much their strategy in the moment. He's very intelligent, but it's kind of again like he kind of just makes up most of it with his raw power. Like Storm kind of just.
I feel like the what you said about sacrificing pawns and stuff. Magneto's more that way too. So
yeah, that's especially if you have to count his time as leader of the Acolytes, and he was not. I wouldn't describe him as being like a charismatic leader then during that time. Like it was more like a cult. Black Bolt's that's a good one,
right?
But then again,
you see, he doesn't really. I mean, how's he directing? Yeah. He only has that telepathic link with Medusa, right?
Yeah. You got to think about other leaders too. Like, so I mean, just make sure we're not forgetting about. Like, there's what I guess you'd say a Star-Lord for the Guardians. You could say, which I don't really consider him to be like a great strategist or leader. Yeah, Reed Richards is a tough one, and Namor is a tough one too. He's been like he was on the X-Men for a while, but I'm trying to think of when he was actually like leading. He wasn't like really the leader of the Defenders or anything.
Cannonball and Mirage are good examples of they were being trained up to be leaders.
Yeah,
mutants for sure.
Yeah, and in Cannonball's case by Cable, so you got to give him a point for that. Mirage was when she was just part of the New Mutants, right? So
yeah.
Icarus is another decent example. There's a lot. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of good leaders out there.
Dr. Doom. Doom needs no one.
I will say it's a little telling that nobody says Havoc, and he was the leader of, we're talking about all the X teams.
X Factor, right?
Yeah, and the Captain Britain, for Excalibur. I'm trying to get other teams.
Other teams. Who's the leader for Defenders?
Red Guardian. Who's the leader of who?
The Defenders. Who is the team leader for Defenders?
Depends on the iteration. I mean, there was at one point it was at the 90s. It was like Doctor Strange was like their leader, right? And then it was, gosh, who was it before that? I don't really know who it was. Were they kind of just like all in it
Kitty has
together?
actually been becoming more of a leader, a really good leader lately. But
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of like that's part of it for me, is that a lot of the X-Men, when I think about it, it's like it's hard to like pin it all on Cyclops. I can't say like he was responsible for a lot of that leadership, but I think he was definitely in the DNA of some of that leadership that's training up in some of the newer kind of generation of X-Men that came from like the Kitty Pryde and the New Mutants era and all that kind of stuff too. But so were Xavier, so was Magneto to a degree.
I mean, you said the Storm raw power thing, but like Storm led the X-Men when she had no powers.
Also true. She also led the Morlocks during that time too. But again, as a field leader, I don't really know. I'm trying to think of what she did that was really kind of like an especially like impressive feat or like a special battle.
I mean, you really see like field general status with Captain America and Cyclops a lot. So
it's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking that one, Chris. Was it Miss Marvel?
Champions. Again, it's which iteration, right? Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney, great field general.
He knows what's up.
The resemblance is uncanny.
Young Kang on the Young Kang on the Young Avengers for some reason does not roll off my tongue.
What was he called?
That's
Iron Lad. That was his name.
Yeah. Yep. Man, there's got to be other ones. There's like some other cosmic forces I feel like I'm ignoring here.
I mean, Cosmic Surfer. I mean, Surfer. He's usually so
well. I'm thinking of like some of the alien races. Like you think about like there's you could say Gladiator on the Guardian or on the Shi'ar Guard, right. Imperial Guard. That's what I meant to say. You could say like some of the Kree forces have had different leaders over the time, like Captain Marvel, Marvel,
Warlock on the Infinity Watch. There we go.
Oh, good point on Heather Hudson leading Alpha fight. You could also say her husband too, but I'd actually argue that Heather Hudson was a better leader, so that's a good one.
Heather was. I really actually enjoyed Alpha Flight all through its trials and tribulations. I read that whole series.
Yeah. Warlock and the Infinity Watch; those are good ones. Mm-hmm. Both of you guys for pointing those out, as Rad says, Jinx, which is a good point. I don't want to highlight just one of them. You guys both said it. But yeah, I think you guys are right. I think Sydney Sweeney gets the nod. That's who it really comes down to. I would follow her. I would follow her anywhere. Odin as a field leader,
he conquered all the realms, right?
I mean, he was a general basically, right? For a long time. Was it? What's the hell is his name?
Was he the one?
Mr. Immortal. Thank you. Yeah. I feel like he was kind of portrayed as front and center on that team, but I'm not sure if he was like the official leader. But then, would he be in the conversation? I mean, we're just naming leaders at this point, right?
Right.
I have been swamped with stuff. Barely been able to get the show regularly on the air here. It's been mostly up to me, but I do intend at some point to make a Sydney Sweeney drop, like a little like short clip we can play whenever she comes up the first time in a show.
Good leader for DC.
Oh, that's way harder.
Nightwing.
Yeah, he might be, because kind of like almost like a leader of the Bat family.
Or Wonder Woman. I mean, Superman to some extent, I guess, but I mean,
you could say Batman because he has a freaking plan for every situation.
A battle plan, but he's not really. Well, I guess he's kind of.
Yeah,
I don't know. They're not portrayed that way, but like. When I pair off people in the DC versus Marvel, I'm always Batman and Captain America. I mean, those are the comps that I have. So
I think it's more like Batman. He probably wouldn't be the best like long-term leader, but like if you were gonna pick one guy to lead a team in DC, he'd be on the short list, right?
That's a good pick too.
That's a good, I like that.
Dr. Fate.
No, Chris is right. Some of these would be like good topics on their own.
Yeah.
Son of Crom says he's had fun listening in, but it's bedtime for this
Hey,
old guy.
Chrome.
His
Glad
word,
to know
not
you're
ours.
here.
He usually is lurking in the background. Cap is better than
Greater leader than everyone. There you go.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't argue with anybody that says Cap. Just because I think he's got like the longer track record, for sure.
I think it'd be interesting to see somebody like portraying Ben Grimm as a leader of a team. I think he would be he's got the military experience,
I'll tell you this much. If you're going to pair any two characters together, he is the 2-in-1 champion.
Great character. I think he's got a lot of heart. I like him.
But yeah, this could actually be a topic on its own. Maybe one we will explore.
Yeah, best leaders, or who's the best at in
And you can even throw in some of the image teams and all that kind of stuff too, and see if there's anybody that compares. But
yeah.
I didn't actually finish my thought there, by the way. Have a great night, Son of Crom. We appreciate you watching. Yes. And anybody who watches, and we know it's even later than normal. I would just urge you to watch on the rewind. Oh my God, Carl, dude, what's up? Great to see you, Carl. I missed Carl did a launch the other day. He's over at 24/7 Comics, and they launched a new Kickstarter called Bladesmith, which I don't have a link handy for, but Carl, if you send it to me like on IG or something like that, I'd love to throw it into the chat for everybody. They did a launch party the other day that I unfortunately couldn't make it to, just scheduling wise. I had another medical thing come up. He's a great dude. Love Carl, so I'm glad to see him in the chat.
Good to see you, man. Yeah, nobody mentioned Xavier. Carl. That's true.
But again, as a field leader, I don't know. I mean,
like Cyclops can hold his own in battle. Same with Cap. I mean, and direct the team. I guess Xavier in his psionic form.
Oh yeah, he definitely could remotely. Oh my gosh, dude. Jay is on it. Jay, thank you for popping that into the chat. Everything's kind of I think it'll be fine, Carl, and I appreciate the kind words. But I want to take a second to highlight. There you have the link for Bladesmith. Definitely go check it out. I've loved actually. I was just looking at that earlier. Got my signed Evermind comic. That's the first comic they did. That's signed by Sean Chen and Daniel Wu. That's a cool 9.8 signature series that came in. And that's their first comic they did as a publisher. And
we had some of those for Heroes too, right?
Yeah, they were nice enough to donate some of those, and he's donated a lot of awesome art for Heroes. But I've liked all the stuff they've done. They're really, 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 really good at collecting good talent that's going to be coming out. So I definitely would follow them. Comic Trope saw Bladesmith. You guys should definitely consider hooking up or get in touch at least, because I think you guys would get along really good. Carl and Chris, like both you dudes. But yeah, good conversation there. Let's see.
This is another case of where our chat is such a big part of the show.
100%. I'm going to bring up this story next because we just talked about Kang, so I'm going to move this story a little bit more to the front. So I don't, if you follow me, I don't really get into the whole rumor mongering kind of thing about the MCU too often.
Right.
But this is kind of an interesting one to share because it has an interesting spin on a lot of rumors that took place last week. We haven't talked about it on the show. That's a really good point. Carl needs to come back on the art show with Nick. That would be great. Yeah, Carl knows his original art game quite a bit. There you go. So there was a lot of rumors that Kang was going to return to the MCU because obviously there's a lot of stuff with Kang that just got left in the lurch, basically, with the whole stuff going on with Jonathan Majors, who had his own kind of legal and domestic troubles outside of the movies, obviously. But the latest rumor that kind of spun out of this is that we could be getting I don't know if you guys watched Severance. It's a really great show on Apple TV. Really love that show. I'm addicted to it. Got my wife into it recently. But one of the stars of Severance is kind of one of the people that they're kind of looking at possibly coming in to play the replacement for Kang. I think his name is Tremel Tillman. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. But I will kind of go into just, to kind of source this. By the way, this is from comicbookmovie.com. So there's this guy, Jeff Snyder. He's kind of one of these people that does a lot of MCU rumor stuff. And this is kind of why I stay away from this stuff for the most part, because they're wrong as often, or maybe a little bit more than they're right usually.
Mhm.
He's one of the bigger names in that kind of game. He has a show called The Hot Mic. But according to him, they are going to bring Kang back to close out the stories, not with Jonathan Majors, though. And that's kind of the spin on this. And that he said that there's been some talk of Tremel Tillman. Again, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, who's the actor from Severance, who plays the character Milchek on Severance. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Figure Drawing. He is wrong a lot. That is a very, very, very good point. And that's why I don't really kind of cater to this stuff very often. But there's a lot of talk about it, and so I just thought I'd throw this out there. I do think that would be a great replacement. There's a lot of people I've heard suggesting that could replace Jonathan Majors over the time since that whole thing happened with him. But I think it's kind of one of those things where there's these top 10 lists now of stories that never got finished in the MCU or never paid off or never came forward, which obviously some of those things are sometimes better left to kind of marinate for a while, right? Sometimes though, it's like, hey, whatever happened to what was the point of?
Right.
And I think that's true for this too. So,
or they can pay it off like how many years later? That's what everybody's saying. The new Captain America movie is the payoff of the Incredible Hulk movie with the leader, the original one.
Okay. Yeah. Exactly. I haven't seen it yet, by the way. So, don't worry about any spoilers, folks. For me, I haven't even seen the new Cat movie. I want to watch it. I know a lot of people that I trust are telling me that it was pretty enjoyable, so I want to watch it. But
yeah, I had a bunch of people saying it was terrible, and then a bunch of people saying it's great. So
yeah, seems kind of polarizing, I guess. But
right.
Yeah, my sources tell me is my least favorite thing in media. I completely agree with you, Richard. And Figures kind of got the same kind of I think notion that I do there, but we were talking about Kang, so I just wanted to mention that real fast. Before I mention the next topic, I want to talk about another show coming up on the EXP. Folks, remember, we are streaming on multiple networks here. We're streaming on my own network. I'm the Bronze Age Nerd. We're streaming on Big B McFly, who's over here now, so I got confused. Big B McFly, the comic book guy, has a channel as well, which you definitely want to go sub him up and follow him. His link's in the description below. We're also streaming over on the EXP, which we were just talking about, the original art experience with Nick Barucci from Dynamic Comics and Dynamic Forces. He does that show every Friday. But I want to talk to you about another show coming up tomorrow on the EXP, and that is going to be Welcome to Wonderland at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Wait a minute. Actually, I think that's the one that's at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. I think I did the time screw up there again, which I always do.
Oh, good. We forgive you.
Nope, it is 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Okay, I just want to make sure I reread my notes here. So I have a little note that tells me, and every time I misread it, I think it's in my head now. Hopefully they forgive me. But hey, if you want to go watch Welcome to Wonderland, which is a comic book claim sale, they feature a lot of new comic book day comic books. So if there's something you missed or you didn't order on FOC or you didn't have it on your pull list at your shop and you want to get a second chance at it, that might be a good show to go check out and follow. And then they bring out some back issues by request and that kind of stuff too. So check it out. That's actually I forget the gentleman's name, but it is one of the writers of Cult of Dracula as well too. Speaking of actual Dracula being in chat earlier. Right. Totally butchered that. There you go. Rich Davis. Jay's coming in to save my bacon here. Yeah, Cult of Dracula and Prometheus in Chains. So there you go. But yeah, definitely check that out. And then so let's see, what should we talk about? Probably not going to bring up all these news stories. We might save some for next week, which is fine. Some of these are sometimes better if we have a chance to kind of see if there's any follow-up stories. I thought this one was really interesting. Did you watch any of the Arrow stuff, Big B?
Not really. No, I heard it was pretty good though.
Okay. I was, to a certain point, I watched all the CW stuff. And then I kind of dipped out of most of them as they got kind of further along on the shows. Except for the crossover things they did, I usually kind of check back in for those. But the first season of Arrow I thought was amazing, and I thought Stephen Amell did a really good job, as well as everybody in that show. And honestly, the second season and third season weren't bad either. The first season was just great. Kind of a modern take, or at least modern at that time, take on Green Arrow. I guess the only thing that bothered me is they didn't just call it Green Arrow. That's kind of one of the weird things that but Stephen Amell actually, I kind of give him some props for this. He kind of came out, he had a few things. This is also from comicbookmovie.com, by the way. He had a few things that kind of, some stuff came out about him, about his time on the set of Arrow, and how he might have been a little bit of, like, I guess the best way to put it is kind of like a diva.
Is he the one who got upset about them calling him a brony a little while ago?
Yes.
That he was going to a convention with his daughter.
Yeah, which, I mean, I kind of see both sides of that too, or whatever. The biggest thing that he actually got kind of in hot water for recently was during the SAG-AFTRA strike. He kind of made some comments about being upset about it because he wanted to get back to work, and he wanted to be able to promote a show he had coming out, which I cannot remember the name of it to save my life. It's a wrestling show, though, that he had coming out. He seems like kind of a guy who, maybe needs to heels. Thank you very much. Like the play on the term from wrestling, being a heel in wrestling. That makes perfect sense. That's cool. That like combined all those messages in my chat. That's really interesting. That is from JR producer in the background. Appreciate that. He did get called Green Arrow by CJ. He got called Green Arrow, but they still didn't change the name. For some reason, it always bothered me. And yes, Legends of Tomorrow was probably one of the better shows out of all of them consistently. Which I loved it when they brought like Brandon Routh in as the Atom and everything. That was great. But he did kind of walk back and have some kind of, I don't know, reflection on his personality and his attitude and how he kind of came off and some of that stuff. He called the SAG-AFTRA strike a reductive negotiating tactic and myopic. And then he, reflecting on that, he said, "Not everything that comes to my mind should be spoken into a microphone. I still think that striking is a nuclear option. That was the point that I was trying to make. I just think I need to be a little bit more patient. I don't subscribe to the whole idea of you're an actor, stay in your lane, but I think that I need to do a better job of really thinking about what I say publicly and the potential impact that it could have. It felt like the world was ending," he noted. "To be at the eye of the internet storm like that, everything is really small and you feel like everyone's looking at you." And you know what? I just thought that was kind of big of him to like say that and kind of come out with that.
Right.
Mostly because I was a little critical of him, not really out loud publicly, but like in my own head when he said some of these things, or kind of some of the stuff came out. But at the same time, like, I like to see people acknowledge that kind of stuff, because I think it helps other people when people admit to their mistakes. I think it's kind of good.
Right. We're human, right?
Yeah. So I thought it was kind of cool. Kind of a weird little story, but there you go. Figure Drawing wants to know, have you seen the J. Scott Campbell Magic 1 and 2 covers? He's slipping. Number 2 is especially bad. Hate to see it. You know what? I'm gonna see if I can't pop up that cover real fast, because I'm curious.
Number 1, is that the one where she's like, it's a downward shot of her?
Is that?
Maybe that's not the one I'm thinking.
I mean, there's this one. I think that's the Magic 1 cover he did. This is I actually would give him credit for this, because he did this set. I ordered a set of these. These were his Magic 1 covers. He did a set of these where the profits went to the California fire relief. So I supported that because I just wanted to support that effort of like him, donating the profits from that. But I think it's, well, I don't have a problem with that. I don't know if that's the one you're talking about.
It's like Standard Campbell.
Yeah, I mean, that has the plain background. This one has kind of more of the style going on in the background there. You got more, that's kind of the criticism of Campbell these days, is that he just kind of does a figure and not much of a background and stuff, which I understand that. So number 2 has the face issue. So I'm gonna go look it up real fast. Oh, Magic 2, there it is right there. Magic 2.
Speaking of backgrounds and stuff, I loved watching Tropes had the great thing about John Byrne recently, which was very interesting. About how he's at one point in his career, he kind of was slipping up, wasn't doing the backgrounds, and it was
was that a newer video he had come out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really good.
Interesting.
Enjoyed
I haven't
it,
seen that
Chris.
one yet. I think this is the one you're talking about, Figure. So the face looks like it's slipping. I will tell you, I did not like her pants on this out. I remember seeing this
the
cover.
weird baggy pants thing.
But I just thought it was kind of like a 90s kind of thing almost, like, which, you know, from a guy who's kind of probably still very closely associated with Gen 13, I kind of forgive some 90s association, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not a 90s thing. I could see like TLC wearing that or something like that. Music video.
Yeah, they wouldn't have had probably the big cuts in them.
Well,
maybe they're trying to
maybe.
modernize it. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. But then the face. I actually I want to say in a way
The eyes look a little bit off.
they look a little bit off, but he's also kind of given her a little bit different different look than we usually see from J. Scott Campbell faces. So maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. I guess. Yeah, I do remember seeing this and just being like, it's not for me. To be fair, but it's more because of the outfit, really, than anything else. I kind of have a lot of J. Scott Campbell covers, so I don't kind of tend to go for him. Looks like her legs were painted on her pants, and her face looks like a J. Scott Campbell knockoff. You know, it's funny you say J. Scott Campbell knockoff because there's like some artists like John Royal, Paul Green. They kind of almost do like a copycat style of J. Scott Campbell in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
there's some obvious similarities in style there, right? Kind of like Terry Dodson and Adam Hughes kind of a lot of crossover too, with their style in some ways too. And I actually will say that I think John Royal and Paul Green both do like better variations on their posing and faces and stuff like that than J. Scott Campbell tends to these days. I'm still a big J. Scott Campbell fan. I get the criticism as far as the legs being painted on. I mean, he definitely shows like a break in the fabric and stuff. Like you could see like where the fabric wraps around. I've seen a lot.
The line for the leg looks like where the leg should be, and the cut for the fabric is kind of weird. Like,
oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so it looks like where the leg should actually be.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And figure drawing. I don't know if you ever were around for. I don't think he's very active on YouTube anymore. But DC Irish used to be a regular, but I think he kind of had some stuff come up in his personal life where he didn't kind of hang around YouTube as much. He's a massive J. Scott Campbell fan. He has like he tried to have like a 9/8 of pretty much every J. Scott Campbell cover that was hard to find, desirable, or expensive or rare out there. And that's a lot of books, right? And he was a huge fan. He actually would often share his criticisms of J. Scott Campbell. I think most J. Scott Campbell fans will say that they wish things were a little different with his art.
Not perfect, but we do like a lot of things about his art.
Exactly, and that's where I was going to go with that. But I do think that, like, you know, I lament people like J. Scott Campbell. Like, I wish he would do like a full comic book someday, like not just a cover, even if that took so much time.
To do.
Like he used to do. Now I know that financially that makes no sense for him, right? Like he could do 20 covers in the time that it takes to do a full book, or, you know, whatever, right? We're probably off on that exactly.
You get paid way more. Yeah.
You get paid way more. But in an era where you still, like, Jim Lee will still do a comic book from time to time. Doesn't happen very often, but he'll still do one. And his got a way more detailed style than Jason Campbell. Now, again, he has a different role at DC. Those aren't one-to-one comparisons.
Right.
But
gotta say hi to Christina.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna get to that when I had a break in the conversation. But yeah, what's up, Christina? Appreciate you as always. Thanks for popping in. Christina has been the biggest victim of me not sending out something to her for the longest time, and every time I feel so guilty. She's been really awesome about it, but I got to get on it. It's just as you people might be sensing, it feels like every week I have something coming up that just kind of pushes me back down for things I'm trying to get taken care of, including a lot of things in my personal life I'm trying to take care of. Awesome Sauce says John Byrne is a legendary artist, but he's an awful human being. I'd like to call John Byrne lots of names, but this channel is very family friendly, so I'll wait for my own show. Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of thoughts on John Byrne.
Chris goes into that, like talking about things that affected his career and stuff. It's really it's a really good episode.
Yeah, I think that I'm at a point where I can be a fan of his work, especially his kind of vintage work, so to speak. And not necessarily associate that with who he is. And I'm with that with a lot of people. It's harder with some things that have come, like it's harder with, like, I'll just say it's harder with Neil Gaiman right now. I don't think I can go back and read Sandman right now. Doesn't mean I'll never go back and do it. It's one of my favorite comics of all time.
Right. I was just discussing that with some people about separating the artist from their work, like what they've done personally versus what they've created creatively. It's like,
and yeah, Mark Brooks definitely does a really good job. Mark Brooks, somebody a lot of people don't like, by the way, just being fair here. A lot of these people go out there and they say different political leanings on social media, and they get just taken to task for it by the other side. And I'm not going to get into that, but that's just how it works, right? And then Awesome Sauce says that Stephen Amell was awesome. He met him a couple times and worked for his convention when he owned a convention. That's really cool. I didn't know he owned a convention. That's cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah, Supergirl had some great moments, and The Flash, man, the pilot of The Flash gave me so much hope for that show. And I still watched it for a long time, but it got bad. Just being honest. Danger Girl, yeah, I love Danger Girl.
Yeah,
love Danger Girl and Gen 13 from his era. But yeah, figure I also feel you. I get what you're saying. Yeah, Hush 2, Jim Lee coming out.
Do you have the Danger Girl sketchbook?
No. Oh,
that is, as an artist,
I have a version.
Artist, there's some really great stuff in there. Like,
I have a version of it.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I'm trying to think if I think of the right one. There's one that's like a cover collection. There's one that's like an art book.
So this is the one that's an art book. It talks about like he was designing action figures and all kinds of other stuff, and it just talks a lot about anatomy, and it's really good.
I'll tell you, J. Scott Campbell, and there's a few other artists I would throw in this. I'm not trying to just single any out really, though. I loved like a Gen 13 when he was the artist on that. Like, that was just a joy, like going through panel to panel, checking it all out. Especially, like, I think it's, he's an artist that really benefited from kind of like modern coloring and lighting that was kind of being shown off in his books. Like, it really shows. And I know Sabine Rich really does a lot of his coloring these days, pretty much all of it, I think. I don't know. I think he did some cool stuff though, like with that book. But yeah, I can't deny that I would prefer to see some different stuff from J. Scott Campbell. Amell still owns a vineyard in Washington, Chris thinks. Interesting. I've never, the whole celebrity alcohol thing, like, wines and vodkas and stuff like that. I never got into that, but I know Maynard from Tool had his own wine that people said was pretty good. A few others like that. Knocking Point. Yeah. That sounds familiar. Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll check it out. I'm not a big wine guy. Wine gives me heartburn. So let's see. What else can we talk about before we get to our main topic? Oh, I'll talk about this because I think it's very germane to the conversation we were just having, and then we'll go to the main topic. We'll save the other stuff for next week. Sound good to you, Big B?
Sure.
I think this is just right in line with what we were just talking about. Frank Miller. Anytime he has a cover come out now, I feel like it's sort of like a talking point. Kind of make this so I can kind of get all in one shot here with a little bit of the trade dress. This is his new cover he has coming out for Amazing Spider-Man 70, Black Cat. And this is an interesting one. A lot of people, his Wolverine cover, was it a was it a Sabretooth one he did too that was kind of in the same vein?
Yeah. There was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. This cover, looking at it, I don't know why, but I suddenly, and talk about somebody who has another great video about this guy. John Romita Jr. is kind of what I thought of when I saw this cover, and how his style has become different over the years. And
there's just all kinds of anatomy problems with that picture.
Oh yeah. But just as far as like the kind of shift in blockiness and going for speed and a few other things. But Comic Tropes did a great video on John Romita Jr. I was just going to share about that. You're talking about the John Byrne one. His John Romita Jr. video was fascinating. He did a really good deep dive on his art style and kind of how it's changed and how he's kind of had tried to meet deadlines and how he's kind of, he's fast. That's what he's going for him. With Frank Miller, I think there's a lot more involved. We've kind of talked about some of the health issues.
His torso too much.
Yeah, that's
just
true.
Like the abdominal areas should be way stretched out.
And I think the head positioning versus the neck and it'd be her left arm. There's definitely some stuff going on there. But honestly, I like it better than the Wolverine or Sabretooth cover.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's just because it's Black Cat. There's some problems with it. Don't get me wrong.
Also not really liking the blurred out digital or the blurred out photo background. Maybe it's that photo.
Yeah, whatever that is, that kind of, I've seen that way too much, but you don't see it on covers very often. Then again, I think like his Wolverine cover, I think it had like a super minimal back. Like I think it was just a few lines or something. But hey, at the same time too, I know Frank Miller has had some health issues going on too. We've kind of learned more about that. So, Rich points out that Rob Liefeld praises Miller's distinctive ugly design that has evolved over 25 years. Yeah, it's interesting. It is very interesting. It's just one of those things where I know a lot of people are going to talk about this. Yeah, it's unique. Is it for me? No, but how old is he? He's 68, nearly 68. So yeah, I probably won't be ordering this one.
Just say not a fan. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Fan of Frank Miller, but not a fan of that picture.
Frank in his stop asking me to draw era. There's definitely, I think, her left arm being pretty long. There's definitely a lot going on. That's kind of, Chris, that's kind of what I get from it. It's almost like, and people kind of point at this now, but it is true that if you go back and look at like some of the Dark Knight stuff, some of this has been there. Not to this degree, but you can see the footprints in the DNA or whatever you want to call it, of kind of where he's gone for that, and a little bit in Sin City too. Although with Sin City, I think it's more stylized, so it gets kind of
that is looking there are a lot of things like that face is very much like his Sin City faces.
Yeah.
But I think Chris said it in his video. He said Klaus Johnson really is responsible for a lot of the Frank Miller that we think of as his best work.
Yeah.
It's probably more to do with Klaus Johnson working with him.
And I think that's what kind of disguises or obfuscates some of his art style to some people too, that he has on his own. But hey, I just wanted to bring it up because I know it's a thing for people, and sure enough, we were talking about controversial cover art or whatever you want to call it, and I was like, man, this is literally that. Let's see here. I want to bring up this real fast because we're going to move into our main topic for tonight, folks. For people that are like, are these guys ever going to talk about the thing they're supposed to be talking about?
That thing? I mean,
we are, as a matter of fact. So this is kind of, I made this post on my YouTube. I think they just call it posts now. It used to be the community tab. And I got some replies from some folks. One of them's in here. Please excuse the AI auto responses that it's suggesting. This is from my kind of back end on the YouTube studio. But I was asking the question, what do you think about, what does your significant other think about you collecting? And that could be open, right? That could be comic books, action figures, Lego,
Anything.
toys. Yeah, it could be anything. It could be your stamp collection for all that matters. But I mean, primarily with a focus on comic books or comic books and comic book related memorabilia, but anything, baseball cards, you name it. So I was asking what if anybody had any stories they wanted to share, and we told them we talk about it on the show. So we'll kind of start off talking about what people brought up. And if you're in the chat, hey, start typing out those comments about what your significant other thinks about your collecting now. Yeah, and if you're wanting to kind of share those, that's fine too. Jay, Richard Westfall, who's in the chat right now, can I zoom in on that a little bit and make it bigger? Yeah, I can do that. Okay. Sometimes that doesn't work very well. This does. Richard says, nope, no issues here. Actually have the complete opposite, as Lily is very supportive of it being collecting. When Lily and I came back to the USA from China, she knew I liked comics, and is very supportive. She knows it keeps my mind off of stressful situation, and it's a nice distraction. She was very supportive when I wanted to help volunteer for Heroes 2024 and donated money herself. I've tried giving her books to read, but has no interest in the hobby. She will, however, watch every Marvel TV show and movie with me. That's really cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So very cool. Thanks for sharing that, Richard. Yeah, that I think I can relate to that quite a bit. Friendly neighborhood linguist, which is that's an easy thing to say, but it's a really long name on YouTube that it looks strange at first. But it's just friendly neighborhood linguist. I think it's because neighborhood has the British kind of spelling there. My wife is very supportive, but she did encourage me to downsize my collection because we were running out of space in the house. I've been steadily working away at it for a few years now, and I have to say it's been beneficial. My collection is now much more focused on quality and things that are special to me. That's really cool.
That's a good statement.
Yeah. I think that's something that is a very positive and healthy thing. Royal Fizbin came in and said, no, if anything, I am the one who keeps my collection size small. I hate stacks and stacks of books. At this point, I just have 2 books on my pull list at any given time. Right now, just one, which is Transformers, which is, by the way, I was just reading Daniel Warren Johnson's Transformers last night. I love that series. So there you go. So that's kind of what our audience had to share. And then we had a couple comments just come through. I want to make sure I highlight those as well. Renegade Rant says, my ex wasn't into me collecting, but she liked to collect other dudes. I'm sorry to laugh at you, but you made a great joke there.
That is
Psycho Phil says, I buy comics. My wife buys shoes. We both buy vinyl. It works for us. That's actually really interesting. I gotta hit you up sometimes, Psycho Phil. Psycho Phil's over on my Discord server. And so I know I can get a hold of them pretty easily. By the way, if you want to join my Discord server, hey, the link's in the description down below. Love to chat over there. Big B and I are both in there. Yeah, vinyl collecting is very fascinating to me. So it's cool that you guys both do that. I'm curious, like what you're hunting and all that kind of stuff now for vinyl, but that's cool. It's cool that you both have a collection that you can kind of respect that what you're doing, and then you do something together. I think that's really neat. Pat Scott says, very supportive wife. I got her into Amanda Connor art. She loves her Harley Quinn run. That's really cool. That's actually, I can relate to that directly. I got my wife, one of the first comics, like traditional American comics that she sat down and read was Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti's Power Girl. And she thought that was really cool. She liked the kind of humor, lighthearted with action and Amanda's art and everything. So that's really cool. I can relate to that a lot. John says, we are getting a new shed with our tax return, so I don't have to rent a storage unit. That's very telling, John.
There we go.
I love it. So I'll take this as permission to basically share what Jay's significant other said, which is that she collects more than he does, and kind of almost in a very joking way, almost kind of like collection shamed him.
She was very very stoked about certain topics too, about like when is this going to come out and what's going on with this. And yeah, she had Jay, you got to get her on as a content creator.
Yeah, 100%. I'm only not saying her name because I don't know if you want that out there or not, but she seems really cool, and I want to say collection shamed, like not in a bad way, like more of an she's like, well, I got more of a collection than you do. Like it was more of like lighthearted, right? But it was fun. Comic Trip says my wife did 24-hour comics with me once and made her own comic. 20. So that's where you do a comic together within 24 hours. I'm not sure if I know what 24-hour comics is.
I think that is you make a comic in 24 hours.
Okay, because I know his wife is an artist,
right? Yeah,
as well. So
no, that would be cool. Did that end up getting published, Chris, or was that just a personal goal thing?
Yeah, it was, I could see them doing some indie publishing there or something like that too, because I know Chris has helped out with some of that kind of stuff before. So I'm sure you could. Yeah, you have 24 hours to make a comic, and you each made one. Okay, cool. I thought maybe you did it together. All right, that's interesting.
That's really cool.
And just self-printed them. Oh, neat. That's really cool.
Really cool.
John says he also collects Jordans. There you go. Steve says, if that significant other is female and she is not a collectibles enthusiast of any kind herself, she will disapprove of any material thing that diverts her partner's attention from herself. I actually will disagree with that, Steve. I'll disagree with that. And when I tell my story later, I'll kind of show. But that could be true in a lot of cases. Don't get me wrong. Could be true in a lot of cases, I'm sure. But she's behind the scenes on our channel. She worked for Space Cadets and the XP for a while. Yeah, that's kind of I was kind of trying to keep her behind the scenes because I thought that might be the case. Since
I was just saying she had a take. She had a good voice when she was telling stuff. We didn't get to see her, but she was talking.
Yeah, I think we follow each other on Instagram or something like that. She's out there, but I don't want to blow up anybody's spot if they don't want to be blown up. So Big B, I'm going to turn it over to you. Like, what's your situation with your significant other, or to whichever level you want to discuss that? It's fine.
Well, my first wife was very much into collectibles and comics, and had her own comic collection and everything, and was very supportive of that. She enjoyed it herself. My current wife, not a big fan of comics, but is okay with me enjoying that aspect, having a different interests in our life. But what Steve said, there's times where she says, the focus, I have a tendency to get very laser focused on things. And sometimes she's like, sometimes I just have to wait for your focus to come back around.
Yeah.
And so there are times, and I will admit that it's not necessarily the most healthy thing for a relationship sometimes. But yeah, there's been times when she's been super, super duper. I mean, being that she's not things collectibles person, it's like, it's a totally different world to her. And she came in when I owned 2 shops, and she immersed herself in that world. She began reading comics, watching movies with me, beginning to understand the hobby, and was very supportive of that, and very encouraging to other collectors that came in and enjoyed the hobby. So she understands that aspect of me a little bit better.
Yeah.
But
that's cool.
Yeah. So
I mean, that says a lot for somebody, really.
Yeah.
Hey, we totally understand. Awesome Sauce. I know it's late. Thank you for coming and joining us for a while.
Yeah.
Hope you have a great week as well. Sorry you're feeling under the weather as well. We definitely a lot of that going around. So hope everybody gets rest and stays healthy. Chris, I definitely saw your comments. I'll get back to those in a second. But I think that's, there has to be a balance, right? Like that's the thing. Whether or not somebody's into collecting themselves, or whether or not they're into comic books or whatever you're into collecting, they have to understand that it's a part of what you're into. And that doesn't necessarily involve getting into it themselves, whether that's listening or talking about it, as long as they're willing to give you that space, literally and metaphorically. But it is important.
I have some friends that don't think that you should have any interests outside of what you both are interested in, which I highly disagree with. But
yeah. So Chris, yeah. So I don't know if you've caught up. There isn't actually an episode where we did the origin of Big B McFly, the comic book guy. the comic book origin. But yeah, he did own 2 shops.
Yep.
It's some fascinating stuff there. And 2 marriages. Yeah, there you go. I don't know how much he wants to talk about that, but yes, there you go too.
There you go.
So I guess I should probably just share my thing quickly too. So historically, I never had it come up really that comic books. There were a couple girlfriends that kind of said something about comic book collecting, or it's like, oh, you got a lot of comic books. Yeah, like I don't. It never really went beyond that much.
Right.
Like I used to draw when I was in my teens and 20s quite a bit, and so that came up every once in a while, but not really the collecting part of it. But then I met my wife, and that's kind of where she took the most interest in it, because even though she wasn't a comic book collector, and not, she's, kind of what Steve said, like about the material aspect, like she's not a material person at all. And because of like her past and who she is, so she's not into material possessions. Like, doesn't mean she doesn't appreciate some nice things, she definitely does. But it's not as important to her, I guess, was one way to put it, where I'm a very material person. Collecting is a huge part of that, right?
Right.
And yet she's totally she's like this. When I asked her about this, she said, it's just part of who you are. It's how you've always been. Like, her and I have been together since since I was in my 20s. We were both in our 20s.
Right.
And now we're in our 40s, and it's just part of who I am. And she described it very well. She's like, your interest in comic books specifically has kind of ebbed and flowed. And it's been, kind of, it's at a higher point right now, I guess you could say. And then I'm fixated, like Baby said, that's kind of part of what I've learned about myself, and ADHD and all that kind of stuff is hyperfixation, and kind of shifting to topics and fascinations can kind of be a thing with that. I think that's pretty true of me. And I think it was pretty true of my dad as well. He's very much like that. Not so much for like collectibles, although he was super into sports cards for a while, like in a very like hyper fixated kind of way. As was I at the time, because we did it together. But like, yeah, Lego action figures. What else do I collect? Like stickers, like all kinds of weird stuff I've collected over the years. And sometimes, like, if I'm super into Lego, I'm not as into comic books. If I'm super into action figures, I'm not as into comic books. Or if I'm, that kind of thing, right?
Right.
But as far as space goes, she and I kind of share a vision. Like, I've got more comics than I want right now. She knows that my long-term plan is to sell, get rid of, distribute most of those comic books. She's pretty happy with that. A lot of that has to do with our space. We have a weird kind of layout in our apartment. Tiny kitchen, like something out of like a New York apartment. And then like, it was fine when we moved in, but we've totally outgrown it, but we just can't afford anything else in our area that has more space. It's kind of what it comes down to. Right. And we keep thinking like, oh, at some point we're going to be in a house instead of an apartment with a little more room. I will say that storage units are one of those things that kind of, I wish there was more climate controlled storage. Where we're at in the Pacific Northwest, it is very, a lot of rain, not as much as some people think, but it's plenty wet to the point where you can't really store comics long term in most storage units. Maybe very short term you kind of could for a while, without expecting some damage to them or some kind of exposure.
Right.
So, for example, I actually do have some comic books in a storage unit. I physically have no room for them here, and they're not my prized, comic books that are in my like serious, real personal collection I plan to keep forever. But I would love to have a different space to store all this stuff in. That's what it comes down to, is mostly storage space. But I'm surprised no one brought up financial aspect of collecting. And I think that's kind of telling, is that not a single person that replied brought up the financial aspect.
No, and that's definitely a thing. My wife knows that, that I've had shops and stuff, and I've always tried to use let the hobby fund itself. But she's like, but I'm also very not motivated to, unless I really, get on it. So she's like, I know this stuff is just going to accumulate, and you're going to be like, oh, that's a good deal. That's a good deal. I'm picking up this $20 book for $1 or $2 or whatever. and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's and well, like, and Steve says she's charting your hobbyist behavior, posterity band. Fair warning. We're both extremely practical people. It's really, I think it's what we're both realists, and I think it's a huge part of what we get along with so well. Like, we're able to be just really honest with each other about our stuff like that. So I don't think that's really a problem for us.
So it's never been a conflict thing for you guys, like?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, we have points of conflict that exist for sure, like every relationship. But it's not about that stuff. And I think it's because our goals are kind of aligned. Like, like I'm like, yeah, there's probably too many comics, this kind of stuff hanging around. And I will say this much: she had a point she brought up, kind of as my stuff was ballooning a little bit. I was like, I'll put some of my like figures and stuff like up on my side of the bedroom, like kind of above my nightstand. I have like a shelf and stuff, and I put some stuff up. I had like a poster up with like Iron Man or whatever, like the Tales of Suspense cover, first appearance Iron Man, and she's like, hey, I need a space in this house that's just
not nerdy,
adult, like, and not adult not in an awesome sauce kind of way, but adult in like that, mature kind of thing. And yeah, I was like, you know what, that's totally reasonable. So let's move away from that. And part of our situation is, and she's been supporting me doing this YouTube thing. It's like this kind of studio. This is my dining room, and my living room is right over here, and my kitchen's over here, and we're down here, 95% of the time when we're all in the house together. And so a good chunk of the shared space is like action figures and Lego sets and posters that you can't see on this wall, and then like stuff that you can see on that wall. And so she's totally reasonable to say, hey, the bedroom, let's make that like it's all kind of themed to like a kind of a modern aesthetic or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah.
My wife is not supportive of a nerdy area. Like when we first got together, I had a lot of the original G.I. Joe stuff and everything. She's like, I just don't see where you're really gonna, maybe are you gonna have a room in the house that you're gonna display this stuff in? Like, you have so much, and you're, is it just worth it to just have it in a box and know that you have it? Like, and I had to like wrestle with myself on that too. Like, like, well, why do I really need this, or why do I have that? And that's the part of like we got to rationalize a lot of that stuff as a collector with ourselves. Like, why do I have this? Why am I collecting this? That kind of thing. So
and
from bootleg Gum Runner.
Renegade points out he had a friend who lost his collection of mildew and mice. Do not store your, especially, I've got, like 6 long boxes in a storage unit. I have no room for them in my house. I just have no room for them. And I've gone through several times, made sure there's nothing in there that I'd love to sell it all at once or something like that. But I just, it's rough. But do not store them in a non-climate controlled storage unit. And if it is climate controlled, check it to make sure, get a little thermometer that has a humidity sensor and all that kind of stuff in it. I'm lucky to have.
That's interesting. Like, we have kind of different aspects to it. Because like I have a lot more books than you do, but they're in a very segmented area, whereas you're allowed to kind of show off your stuff in a public area in your home.
Well, and I'll tell you, comics wise, it's spread out because there's no one spot in the house, apartment, townhouse is really what it is, that could physically contain all the comic books, which is annoying. I hate that. Actually, that bothers me because it's like,
you cannot hope to contain my collecting.
Yeah, it's like I don't necessarily have as many comics as some people, but I don't have a dedicated space where they could all go.
Right.
And it's, I've got like a closet that has like basically A through F. I have part of my daughter's closet because she's young enough, she doesn't really need like all their closet space, so a lot of it's storage for other stuff too. But I have like G through like M in her closet, and then like N through whatever is kind of in this big filing cabinet I've got next to me down here. So and
The GI Joe is in your daughter's room.
yeah, it is. It's funny. It's actually one of the few comic books that she'd probably care about too, because she likes GI Joe and Transformers and My Little Pony
and X-Men.
And X-Men. Yeah, we actually, I kind of told that story. We read through Avengers Annual 10 together, which reading Avengers Annual 10 to a 6-year-old is very interesting because there's some
some
interesting language. Yeah, there's some interesting language. Like what do they call Spider Woman? Like they keep calling her something as black-haired beauty or something like that. Some kind of weird term or something they have for. I can't remember what it is.
Well, yeah, that deals with the whole thing of like Carol Danvers being like taken away and mind controlled and like forced to be that guy's wife.
She basically was assaulted. I mean, kind of, and then it gets weird from there. It's really weird because that's basically the comic that kind of sort of tries to fix some of that, right? From how weird it was when in the original storyline. I was wondering why your daughter sold me GI Joe 155 for $3. Oh, that's a good one. I know Chris is usually, I'll say he's not usually up on the collecting side as much as like, the storylines. He's a master at all that stuff, but he pulled a laser accurate one right there.
155.
That would be a great pickup for $3. And I can't believe I sold it for less than that at one point. But as part of a huge chunk of my collection, I sold off, which I did. That's a story I've told. It kind of ties into this though in a way. Like when my daughter was born and we ended up in a smaller place than this, we looked at it and went, well, there's definitely no room for a lot of this stuff. So we did get a storage unit for, things like a lot of our kitchen stuff, a lot of everything really. Mm-hmm. And that's primarily why we got it. But I looked at my comic collection and I was like, there's just no room for this. I'm not going to care about comic books for a few years at all because of, raising my kiddo, which ended up being mostly true. And so I took, I've told the story, the vast majority of my collection down to a comic book shop and sold it. Right before the comic book market took off, by the way.
This is the secret tie-in that we have. The weird, the weird, like almost like it was a place where I worked, but like in a warehouse in the back.
Yep. They were dealing with some related stuff that wasn't on the show floor, and that you worked there, and that's where I sold it. And I mean, at the time it was definitely good. It was what you'd expect from a shop at the time, for sure.
Right.
And I was just desperate enough to get rid of them, that it was okay with me. And I
think people were bringing stuff in and they were just dumping it during that time period.
Yeah, exactly. And I kept 4 short boxes of my favorite stuff that I had, and I now have probably, I definitely have more comics now than I had then, which is crazy. But I bought a couple collections since then too, and that kind of stuff too.
Which is funny. I was not even into comics at the time, and I remember seeing first Supergirl in the display case for less than $100. The Fantastic Four issue with the Hulk where he's just hiding around the corner. It was like $40 the display case, and I was just like, oh, that's cool. God, I wish I was into comics back then.
Yeah,
I just was totally out of comics at that point. I was just like, I don't care.
Well, that was post shops, right?
Yeah.
So, and kind of like, and that's
it was post shops. I had to sell my collection. I was just so done with. That left such a bad taste in my mouth. I was like, I'm done with it. So I'd come in and I go, oh, that's cool, and I just walk away. No biggie.
But and I mean, it's just we could talk about that all day. But my point is that's kind of part of it. Is like, she saw that I was willing to do that when the chips were on the table, so to speak, right? Like, is my husband gonna take over his baby's room with comic books? No, I didn't. I went and sold them and tried to do the responsible thing and all that kind of stuff. Have some regrets, sure, but I also was proud of it at the time, and in some ways,
kind of what makes us who we are, right?
Yeah, and in some ways, I kind of recommend doing it for people. I know for a fact there are people that watch my content, at least, that feel kind of stuck with their comic book collection, and they have like um, a need to hold on to it that they don't really understand. I've had those kind of conversations with people, and I'll tell you, like,
Emotional thing, yeah.
yeah,
That was the
sometimes,
whole thing with the GI Joe action figures. I was like, what is this?
yeah,
This little piece of plastic. Why do I have such an emotional attachment to this thing that, it's just like, it's not the original toy that I had when I was a little kid, but it's just like, I really, really like this.
Well, and to Chris's point here, there are things from that I sold that I have went back and rebought at
Right.
at more than I sold it for by far.
Right.
And it's that nostalgia thing for sure.
Right.
And I'll just say I'm lucky enough to have had a partner that supports that.
Yeah, no,
but-
I think it's good to find somebody who either is like Jay's wife, who is really into it as well and can enjoy it with you, or somebody who is it's understanding and can allow you to enjoy that in your own space.
Yeah. Or Chris was talking about how he actually met his wife through comics, helped start a comics group in DC. We made books together, had monthly meetings, field trips, and comic museums to an annual festival.
That's
and then
cool.
They hired his wife's band to perform, so they met there. That's really cool. And different kinds of levels of support. But we were kind of getting near the end of the time, and we're an hour late, but we're getting near the end of the time. I usually would kind of say we should probably try to wrap up. But I thought we should pivot a little bit into like maybe, I guess I'd call like unsolicited advice, because
sure,
I think there's some people that have kind of this topic. We didn't really get a lot of it in the comments, which surprised me. But I also know there's a lot of people out there that have friction over this topic, right?
Oh yeah, no, I have friends that I hear it constantly.
yeah. And I think what it comes down to is, I think literally, my opinion is literally everything in a relationship is a compromise on some level.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there ever will be a perfectly balanced scale with anybody, that kind of thing. But I do know that it's almost, I guess, in a way, like a pick your battles kind of a thing is one way you could look at it. But I mean more of in a balance on the grand scale, like the shoe collection. My wife collects shoes, I collect comics, that kind of thing, and we both collect vinyl.
Right.
Maybe your wife, does retail therapy and buys clothes. That's a really generic and outdated example or whatever, but whatever, some shoes, makeup, or it could be figurines, or it could be she collects vinyl or whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, there might be something she spends money on or has a lot of, or could be cars, it could be and by the way, for the women out there, the guy could be collecting tools and you collect comic books or something like that, right? It could go the other way. But maybe there's that kind of like give and take where you can kind of look at it that way and kind of have the discussion if it ever gets to a certain point of friction. Maybe start to kind of explore it from that angle and be like, well, how you have this kind of thing that really helps you and it's what you get into, like my wife loves puzzles. She has tons and tons of puzzles. She loves doing like jigsaw puzzles, right? So not that this is an issue with us, but like, how you relax by doing jigsaw puzzles. Well, I relax by going out to comic book shows and looking for comic books, and this is a thing for me and that kind of deal. So that's definitely one way you could approach it, I think, is to kind of talk about it, like try to find the common ground,
right,
of why is this important, and at the same time ask yourself why it's important to you.
Right. And I will caution, I've had this discussion before. Don't get into a finger pointing, well, you this, me that, that doesn't work very well.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But you should never, in my opinion, you should never approach any kind of conversation that way. And actually, I'm the kind of person where if I know I'm going to have a conversation where I have the potential to go that way, I think about it beforehand because I don't want it that, like, I can see, okay, if it starts to go that way, I need to kind of pivot or redirect or whatever you want to call it to something that's more healthy. Because we all know there's people like you can come up to them and they, like, oh, every time I talk to Fred, if this comes up, it's going to be this whole thing. Okay, well, that's a difficult conversation. Approach it in your head beforehand and think about how it could be. What are the potential roadblocks and what are you going to say if that comes up that's going to be more constructive, right?
I'm one of those people that have been in relationships with me. They'll tell you that they'll be talking to me and they'll be like, what are you thinking? And I'm thinking about like my response, what their response is going to be, what my response is going to be, and where is this going to go?
Yeah.
Before I'll say something.
That's fair too.
Which can be frustrating, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think that I can personally relate to that on the other side because I'm more of a shoot from the hip kind of person. Like I think of a kind of conversation before I have it, but during the conversation, I'm kind of just stream of consciousness. Right. And if somebody takes too long to respond because they're thinking about something, I'm usually kind of like, what are you thinking about? What's going on? Oh my gosh, what's going on?
Did I hurt their feelings? What's going on? What are they thinking about? Why are they thinking that? Why aren't they talking?
So I can relate to that. Richard's basically nailed it here. Moral of the story: if your wife doesn't support your collecting, divorce her. That's pretty much what we're saying.
But my first wife did collect comics. I don't know.
Well, he's saying, kind of this.
But she also, like Renegade Rant said, collect other dudes. So
there you go. Liked collecting lots of things, including other guys. Mirrors. I don't get it.
Something that she collects? Mirrors? I don't know.
Yeah. Or are you talking about holding up a mirror to yourself?
Yeah.
Like maybe that can make sense. I think at this point,
that's soon, isn't it?
It's soon, man. It's like a few weeks away. I think at this point my answer is no. But maybe there'll be a happy surprise. There's just been so much going on. It's going to feel hard to break away for that.
I'm just flat broke busted. Don't have any funds.
That's part of it. Is after I bought a ticket for it, which I know they're not cheap. I don't think I'd have any money to like do much there other than just walk around and check it out, which is fun.
One of the best times I ever had at Rose City was I didn't spend $1. Travis had an extra pass. I just walked around and interviewed people on camera and had a blast. So.
It's March 7th through 9th. Yeah, it's a most likely a no for me, but I will be optimistic and try to work towards it. Because really, honestly, anytime a show's coming up, I want to go to it if it's nearby. But I missed Fan Expo Portland, and I'm probably going to miss ECCC as well. But I do want to go. I want to go one of these years to it because I've never been to that one. I'll double check the guest list. Maybe
later in the year. It used to be in the summertime.
Gosh, I feel like it's changed every year.
Yeah. So I was saying flat broke busted, but I did buy my first comic book of the year.
I saw that on your channel stream. Speaking of Spider-Woman.
Yeah, I couldn't resist. It was a good price.
Yeah, on a 9.6. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it was $60 shipped.
Yeah. It's not bad.
I was like, it's a pretty good deal.
I think I have an 8.5. Is it Marvel Spotlight
35 or something?
Whatever I have her first appearance in like an 8.5, and I have her. Oh, nice. I have that like in about the same grade, I think. Kind of bottom around the same time. It's funny. Mm-hmm. Those two covers look really like they pair really nicely with each other.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the mirrors can women live without them. There we go.
Yeah, I caught
all
that.
Shapes and sizes. Cool. Always one within reach. Okay.
Sweet. So I'll see John at Frankenstein Comic Swap. That's coming. Yeah, I'm actually prepping for that now. I'm going to order some supplies, like some labels and stuff, some stickers, to get set up for that. What else do we have to say about this topic? I guess I feel like there's more to it, but
there is a lot more. We could dig a lot more in depth into it, like the financial side of it, the side, the conflict that it can cause. There's a lot deeper we could go, but
so I'll touch on the financial side real fast. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I just said I think we scratched the surface. Just okay.
Yeah. The financial side. Here's what I'll kind of say. This is my recommendation to anybody that collects comic books: set a budget. Just set a budget. The people that collect comic books, unless you're extremely well off, which if you are, great, I'm happy for you. But the people who collect comic books and don't set a budget, they tend to get in over their heads. And whether you're collecting alone or with somebody, that can create problems. If you have a budget and you know, whether that's, I kind of took some advice actually from Reggie Collects a long time ago, literally years ago, where I kind of have a separate account where money I get from things comic related go into it. And that's mostly, I'm bad at this sometimes, but it's mostly where it comes out of too. And when that account goes to zero, I don't buy comic books. I haven't bought comic books in a while. Yeah. I did a little deal over at the Big Me McFly's famous Golden Age Honey Hole. That's the last stuff I bought. So
yeah,
besides
book I bought since I think November.
Besides these charity benefit books, but yeah, and I'm definitely trying to buy less too, I guess. But
that's not to say I don't do trading and stuff with other people, but
that's different.
Actual money going out of my bank account.
Yeah. I guess I should say, I know Bigby's holding some stuff for me that I have to come up with some scratch for. So hopefully I can do that after Frankenstein. Yeah. But yeah, it comes down to, like, I think that's the easiest solution because it's going to be beneficial for you no matter what. And if you and your significant other can agree on that, it's like, hey, maybe, hey, honey, like, I get this paycheck and this much of it I'm going to hold aside as kind of like my play money or whatever. As long as you both agree on that, I mean, that should be fine, right?
Right. No, I've always had like this much X amount of my paycheck every week goes towards, you can spend this on whatever you want. But
yeah, I think that's healthy.
You got to be responsible with it. It's really tough. And then, but my thing has always been like, well, okay, I'm going to spend that money and I'm going to try to use it to buy things at a good rate where I can use the hobby to fund itself, to snowball that into more money to buy a bigger book. Where I've been able, like last year, I was able to buy a lot of big books, but it was from using that, churning the smaller books into bigger books, into or continuing to use that money to buy more and more books that I would find at a good rate to turn and to get,
Yeah. So, and I've learned a bit from that method too, because it's something I was kind of doing on a smaller scale anyway. I try to like focus that a little bit more. It's a really good strategy. Kind of, I mean, in some ways it's separate from this conversation, but it's all connected at the same time too.
Yeah, no, but I would say like a lot of like what we're saying, like unsolicited advice, I'd say a lot of it has to do with self-reflection too. If there's a conflict or there's a, that kind of an issue. Mirrors, self-reflection. Yeah, they're good for that. And
communication.
And being open and honest and trying to communicate your feelings and trying to communicate. Sometimes that's a good way to work through self-reflection. Is like, I'm feeling this way about this thing. I don't really even understand why,
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, I think there's by the way, part of why I want to do this topic is there's the meme that goes around, and it kind of goes around with every guy hobby that you can think of: cars, tools, whatever you can think of. You see the meme like, what's your greatest fear? It's that my wife sells my comics for what I told her I paid for them when I die. Right? Like that meme. Right. I see that all the time. And thinking like that, and it always makes me chuckle because I would just say don't keep those secrets, because that's what that meme is implying, is that you're keeping your spending and what you do a secret.
Right. No, that FF number 1, when I got that, I told my wife exactly what I paid for it, what it was worth. I want her to know, like, if something happens to me, and I'm lucky I have made a deal with Ryan Automatic Comics. I said, if something ever happens to me, can my family contact you? And he said, I will help you. I will help them move those books to get what they're worth for you. So,
and that's awesome. That's really awesome. Because I mean, there is some of that that I see, and it doesn't mean you're gonna be like so transparent to like, oh, here's what I spent on this, here's what I spent on that. I mean, maybe
Right.
you do. It depends on the situation, but you know, it's like for me, it's like, well, the money's coming from this account. Like the money that goes
Right.
into the account comes from all the stuff I do, and the money comes from that account. It's like, you know, it's like then she doesn't care what happens with
Yeah,
that.
and I
because
mean,
it's not-
we had that discussion where it's like I said, I have the money, I'm churning it to be able to get more, and she's like, good job, you were able to get this thing. She's like, I may not understand, you know, why you need to have Fantastic Four #1, but good job, you know, you didn't put a hurting on the family to get it, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a big one. It's a big one. It's one I think about because I've slacked on like valuing and stuff like and showing my partner like how do you get into like see like here's my app that shows you all of that. I'm like, well, that's just on my phone. Like there's no way she'd know what they're all worth, you know. So it's something I definitely think about from time to time too.
well, I think like, you know, like I've told my wife, I'm like, you know, she knows a lot of my friends that are regulars that I talk to and stuff. And I'm like, first off, talk to this person, but you know, I'm going to have contact information for you in case something ever happens to me. So
That's smart. That's really smart.
But I think if we put that out there as to our spouses, like, hey, if something happens to me, contact, like you could tell your wife, contact Big B and he'll help you find somebody to get the value of my books or something.
Definitely.
You know? So
yeah, and I think you know that's another solid piece of advice. And then God, there's so much that goes along with that. It's probably a topic that we'll tackle a different time too. It's just like
that is
sure your wills in order.
Different rabbit hole, but I mean it is important. Like planning for the future for your eventually we all pass away.
Yeah,
it's just how it is.
It's funny though because so many people don't plan at all for it.
Right.
Yeah. So I think we kind of covered most of the main points I had in my head coming into this conversation. Yeah, and I specifically was like super curious to see what everyone had to say about their significant others, and you know we did get kind of a range there, which is pretty cool. I think
if you're watching this on the rewind, please put it in the comments. Like,
oh yes,
we will definitely go over that stuff again. Like bring it up
because I think we're I would say 95% chance that we're going to revisit at least parts of this topic in the future, whether it's expanding on it or tying it into like things like what to do with your collection as if you're thinking about death or you know those kinds of things, or
like basically like estate planning with your collection kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think you know one thing we'll probably talk about too is like collection addiction, that kind of stuff too, that'll kind of tie into some of this as well.
And yeah, like same thing, like if I die, delete my browser history, contact Big B.
my password is Sydney Sweeney #1 fan XXX 69.
So wanting to be buried with the collection is a no. Yeah.
I mean,
King Tut style.
If you can enshrine it in a large enough tomb, I guess go for it.
Put it in the slab, you know. Those are really good topics. I think I want to be like you said, collection addiction, like intervening with other people, like or being able to talk to your friends about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, obviously I'm going to be completely ambiguous here, but like, you know, like I've had this conversation with several collectors. I've had it with you about other people where we're kind of like, that person seems to be doing stuff that seems kind of like, you know, bad for them.
Destructive to their
self-destructive is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So I think we're definitely going to talk about that too. It might even be our topic next week. Maybe we'll talk about it then.
Could be.
Yeah, you and I actually need to talk about that because I want to make sure we nail down a topic to kind of discuss, have everybody kind of on the same page for next week. Because I love that people had time to kind of chime in on this on social media and talk.
No, that was really cool. I think if we can do that and get more of like, a feedback engine before we even start the show.
I'm just going to point out to the chat, you all can recommend topics to us as well. We'd love that.
Yes.
So whether you're watching on the rewind or here in the live, but I do want to say before we go, the last show I want you to check out tomorrow night on EXP, which again, we're streaming over on the EXP as well. Link in that description below. This one is at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and that would be 6 Pacific. That's Kicking It with Henri. Henri Campen is a comic book creator as well, and he does a live claim sale on the EXP. Also worth checking out. So make sure you go check out that one. On your way, make sure you go sub up Big B McFly, the comic book guy. If you want to sub up myself, you know, I've seen a lot of fluctuation on my sub count recently. It's kind of gone up, it's kind of gone down, it's kind of gone up, it's kind of gone down. You know, like it could go up, it could be down, you know, that's fine. I don't really ask for those things, but that'd be great. So close. What did I miss? What did I miss? Oh, Jay says I'm so close. Kicking with Henri at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, right? No, am I wrong about that? Oh man.
Now you're gonna have to go back over it.
I'm seeing if he corrects it in real time. It's at 10 Eastern, 9 Central. Okay. But I did read what was this. I'm Ron Burgundy. I did that. You may need help with your Sydney Sweeney addiction. She's become such a meme on this that I definitely, and Roy Thomas, that yeah, I hope to get some time with that. I'm actually enlist Big B because he does some great like Instagram reel type stuff. Maybe I'll get your help on this. I want to do like a little Sydney Sweeney sizzle clip kind of thing we can play the first time she comes up. Still want to try to do that.
I made one. There's 2 of them on my my Instagram.
Oh, I totally saw those and know exactly what you're talking about, and I just forgot to mention those at this point. Now I'm going to go check them out after we end the show. By the way,
I made them just for Richard.
Everybody out there, go follow Big Me McFly over on Instagram. Go follow the EXP over on Instagram. That's one of the places they go live, and you can get all the updates about our show when we talk about it on both those places. Big B and I collaborate on a lot of Instagram stuff for the show here, so you definitely want to check that out. You can follow me as well. I'm over there at Bronze Age Nerd at Instagram. And on that note, I think we're probably going to end the show and get everybody out of here and off to bed. Have sweet dreams, everybody. We'll catch you in the next one. Back at our normal time, almost certainly at 8 p.m. Pacific over here for Best Coast Comics. We appreciate it, everybody. Make sure you go check out all of Big B's content that he's uploaded recently. I'm still trying to get through all the problems to get some content up this week, but hopefully that'll happen this week. And I hope everybody has
I have
a great
faith
week.
in you. You can do it.
I know I can. The question is, will life let me? Right. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.